All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC Fight Night. Lewis versus Teixeira, taking a look at UFC 318, Holloway versus Poirier 3. And to do all of that with me, as always, the man, the myth, the legend, my good friend, my co-host, the Ohio player, and a man who would never send nude pictures to a 4 out of 10 rapper, Chase Parton. How are you, sir?
I am living, of course. We got another banger show coming for you. I swear, Saturday was very exciting, and it only got more exciting on Monday. I know everybody wants to know. We're going to talk about it right away
We
because
have to, right?
TJF, you are here and you want to know the big news. Does Connor pack a large package? I don't know. You let me know.
Well, I guess it's a matter of perspective. All I know is that he's able to lift small barbells with it. So it must, I
He's
guess it
on to
must be
something, is
something.
what I
Yeah,
think.
it's definitely not nothing, right? Yes, I mean, look, we have to address this. For anybody who's not aware of what we're talking
The
about here
penis and the
today.
selfie, if you will. We
Yes,
might as
yeah.
well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's big news in our world, depending on how you look at it. So yeah, Conor McGregor sent some nude photos of all people to send nude photos to. He decides to send these nudes to Azalea Banks. Are you familiar with Azalea Banks at all,
I don't
Chase?
even know who this woman is. The fact
Right.
that Connor knows who she is. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're not aware, if anybody else is not aware, Azalea Banks is a rapper, but she's like also a person who gets into beefs a lot. Like I don't really know her music all that much. I think I've heard a couple of her tracks, and I've whatever. It's not really not great as far as the rap that I enjoy, but like more of what I know her from is being like online and aggressive and antagonistic towards other rappers, other like personalities and stuff. She's like big. She's like a Twitter warrior almost.
Mhm, mhm.
Back when that was more of a thing. But like, so of all people to decide to do that too, it was very strange that that's who he chose. But yeah, so Connor sent her a couple of pictures of him, full frontal, selfies in the mirror, and on one of them, that's one of the crazier parts to me is, he's got like a barbell suspended from his member in the image, which I was like, that's an interesting like way to entice a woman. It's like not only the size, but look what I can do with it.
Yeah.
Like,
More than just, an item, it's a utility, you
yeah,
can.
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, so what do you make of all of this, Chase? I mean, is this just another day at the office for Conor McGregor?
I think it is just so telling. There's two things I want to talk about. One is when we sent this to the Discord, my good friend Mank obviously just went on about his day. Didn't even realize that this is just Connor being like he just went on about his day. I'm like, I messaged clearly. I'm like, the fact that you did not give a shit just makes me aware that this is just another day for Conor McGregor. Like you just looked at it and you're like, yeah, what's new? There's nothing too crazy here. Now, the second thing I want to address
Sure,
is that Nav in the Discord, who is a beautiful genius when it comes to making some
the goat.
photography,
He's the
he
best.
had the greatest edit of the photo and is with Poirier's wife messaging or dropping the Twitter bomb or whatever. And it was funny at first to me. And then I didn't get it like right away. And I'm like, oh, your wife's in my DMs. I'm like, oh, he's even bigger brain than I could have even thought. This guy's a genius, guys. Full credit there.
The only thing I'm mad about is that was not in my Discord. Nav, if you're listening, drop it. Drop it
I
in
think
the
he
Yammer
did actually.
Discord. Oh, did he? Oh, I must have missed it. I'll have to go back. My
It's
bad if
all right.
that's the
I
case.
think he
But
did.
yeah, no, appreciate Nav always. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, my thing with it is that it's just hilarious to me that Connor is out here doing everything but being a husband and father. Like always, he's out in
Government
Ibiza.
official too, potentially. That's what he wants to
Yeah, yeah. I mean, let's see how this affects his political aspirations, of course. But yeah, it's just amazing to me that he's out here punching people in clubs. He's sending dick pics. I don't know if you also saw. I posted in the Discord as well. This is right on the heels of an image that came out earlier of him on the beach. I think they said in Miami of him kissing some random other woman, also not his fiance, girlfriend, whatever.
This is what I have a problem with is,
Yeah.
Connor can, he can do all this stuff and people have plenty of pictures and storylines about what's going on. But when every American president or any president ever, world leader, is kissing people on the cheeks and giving them hugs and, what's the difference? Now, the punch, maybe he deserved it. Hey, making out with somebody, he's just trying to get some people over into his political party. I don't know what you guys are so mad about. Seriously, I think this was great for publicity.
Oh, this is an active PR move for exposure so that he can further his aspirations.
The Irish people go, they think we're girthy. Let's go. Connor has got our image on the map now. We have massive schlongs that can lift many weights.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps maybe this is all just a calculated move on his part to to boost his approval rating in the country. I mean, that very well could be. I mean, yeah, it would seem a little far fetched, but I mean, it's just amazing to me that that he is the way that he is at this point in time, right? I mean, we're talking about now possibly having the White House card. He's said that he might want to do that. As you mentioned, the political aspirations, this whole thing we're going to get into in a little minute with the BKFC that he obviously is a co-owner of. He's got a lot still going on. And I mean, and that this is all after the sexual assault case and now current appeal process that's going on. So it's like, he's got all of these things happening, but still can find time to be sending these kinds of images to random. It would essentially be random. That's, I think, the craziest thing about that too. Like, I don't know if they had any kind of prior relationship or any kind of prior conversation or discourse around any of it.
He just dropped the pic, bro.
Just to some, I mean, he just picked her out of out of his his follower list or his follows list and just said, okay, she's the one today. It's like, this is just a wild thing to be happening. And I mean, I don't know if there's really a takeaway beyond that, but I just thought we had to mention it because it is the news of the day and happened just today.
It was definitely funny. I'll give you that. So now we can get into the exciting part of the show and we can talk about the fights. So what did you think of I want to actually throw it on you today. Stop. What did you think of the fights collectively?
I thought they were amazing. I thought it was a great card. I mean, I really enjoyed this one. I thought that this was exactly the card that we've needed for quite some time. I mean, we've had a couple of decent ones before. Like, I felt like we went through a little bit of a dip and now we're coming out of the dip. And this is one that really is like a definitive, like, this was really, really good. Like, I enjoyed this card very much. I thought the Nashville crowd was really great. The problem for me was that it was the stream experience was terrible. I don't know if your ESPN Plus was better than mine, but like, you go back to the watch along and see how bad I was having like to navigate the ESPN Plus experience. It was doing things that you would expect an illegal stream to do. It would chop. It would like chop and reverse at points. The audio would be out of sync. I was like, this is worse than pirating this shit.
Dude, I actually have been saying the same thing. I don't know what the decline is on ESPN's, what they got going on ESPN Plus, because I am watching it and every goddamn 30 seconds they go to an ad which takes me out of sync with the live portion. So I'm watching, an ad that's stuck in its own little world, and when the ad's over, I have to click refresh to go back live because I'm missing shit. And it's actually very, very irritating. And I think that is the main part of it. And what I think is also key is towards the end of this little ESPN deal with the UFC, it definitely seems like they are sabotaging our experience. I have no idea what's happening.
Yeah, and I mean, we've had the kind of the mentions of that from time to time here. Now, I think that what the issue is when it comes to the ad portion of everything is that, at least what it appears to me anyway, is that they used to embed the ads in the actual stream itself. So like, when it would be coming from ESPN, you'd have the video feed of the event, and then within that same feed that that is streaming to you, you'd get the ads as the same portion. What it looks like now is that it's changing from the live feed to a secondary party. That's because I don't know if you noticed this too, like for, at least for me, it'll say ad almost like on YouTube or like any other like video platform that like has that kind of distribution. And it'll say ad in the corner, and then it'll give you a countdown as to how long the ad break is.
Mm-hmm.
So what I think is happening is that it's cutting off the ESPN feed, going to the ads, and then coming back to the feed when the ads are done. And in that transition, everything is going sideways.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not that has anything to do with it being sabotage or not, I don't think that it's too far of a stretch to think that ESPN has been teasing for a while now that they're not happy with the arrangements. They're claiming that the pay-per-view numbers aren't great. They know that the UFC is looking for other options. They've been very public about that at this point. So I don't know if they're actively like, we are trying to go after these products and make it a poor experience, or if they're just like, we don't give a fuck anymore. It's just going to be what it's going to be. Screw them. We'll fucking worry about Northwood baseball or whatever the hell else they're putting on their service.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was just very hard. Sometimes it's hard to even watch, like, bro, when people aren't even on the stream, like the first fight of the night on the prelims, I should not be having streaming issues. Maybe if we get to the main card or the featured prelim, the main event, like, okay, a lot of people are trying to watch it. Maybe we get some sort of stuff going on. But like, bro, I should not be watching the first fight and having issues, and then all the way through the entire card. So
True. Yeah. And also for this one, there was 20 minutes before the first fight, which I thought was a little strange, only because there was no fights that dropped out on this card, as
it
far
was
as I
30
know.
minutes. It started at 7:30 or whatever, 6:30.
Okay, so 20,
Yeah.
30, whatever. I mean, there's a very long portion of lead
Yes.
up on this card for some reason. And I didn't get that because, I mean, like I said, I don't think any fights dropped out on this one. So
To be
why, like, it's just
fair,
weird,
I mean, is it the worst thing to do if you're trying to fill a time slot and you have heavyweights that, 5 rounds for heavyweights, it's like a godsend kind of deal. So if that's your main event, that's 20 minutes, 15 minutes unaccounted for, and you're expecting a lot of finishes on this card, I guess. So maybe they were doing wishful thinking and it paid off. I don't know.
I think that there also might be some push possibly by the organization to lower the time frame of these events. Possibly. This is speculation,
Because they've
but
been
like,
listening to my gripes, to be honest.
well, and I mean, look, this was a 12 fight card, if I'm not mistaken here, and I thought that it went fine. I was like, yeah, we can have like smaller cards that are not 14 fights and still get a full experience out of it. I felt if they're going to be of this quality, then yeah, you chop 2 fights off every time. You don't even need to have that intro portion. Bring it down to a 5-hour broadcast. I think a lot of people would be okay with that. I know that we're sitting here 6 hours, 7 hours at a pop, doing our watching of every single fight. Like, having those extra hours might not be so bad every once in a while.
I agree. Sometimes I be sitting here and listen, I'm blue collar, guys. I be working before some of these cards. So when I get up at 7 in the morning and I work until 4, and then I got to get a card at 6, and then it ends at 12. It's you can't always expect me to be the most energetic. I am going to be a little groggy, a little tired from the day. So shave an hour off or so, and I think maybe we're working towards something good. But as of right now, this was fine. This card was good, and I thought the pacing was okay after that first 30 minutes.
Indeed. And the only other note I had before we actually get into the fights proper was that Meg O'Leary and Joe Benavidez have welcomed their child into the world. So congratulations to the two of them. Their little boy named Vito, which I thought was kind of cool. So Vito, welcome to this planet, and congratulations to Meg and Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually wanted to ask you a question because
Sure.
somebody asked it in the Discord when we started. They asked, "Oh, Brendan Fitzgerald's on the card. Like, what do you think?" So I actually wanted to ask that right on stream real
Just
quick. What do you
about
think?
Fitzgerald as
Yeah,
a
yeah,
broadcast. I
just throw it
like
out there.
that. I'm fine with Brandon. Yeah. I mean, I think that I am always okay with the guys that are not as seasoned in all of like the technical terminology and like the deep in like inner workings of the sports aspects of things, because I feel like from that when you have that, like a person like that paired with Sanko and DC, who obviously are very learned in that area, they're very well versed in those things. It's a good dynamic. I feel like he calls the play by play pretty decently. You get the good color commentary from DC and Laura, and overall, like, that evens everything out. Now, I mean, I prefer John Anik if we're gonna split hairs on like, ranking people or anything like that, yeah, I'd say that I'd put John over him. But I don't have any problem with Brendan Fitzgerald. What started that conversation?
No, I mean, we just noticed, somebody just noticed that Brendan Fitzgerald was on the thing. I don't know if that was just uncommon to them. It wasn't something that stuck out to me, but they were like, "Man, I really like Brendan." I was like, that's a good thing. Let's see what Thinker thinks about that.
Yeah, I'm
But
okay with him.
I actually wanted to bring up a good point. I think the dynamic is really funny because when you have John Anik there, he's the guy who's just throwing out the nonsense, and not the nonsense, but like the weird facts that you're supposed to know about these people. And then when you get Brendan Fitzgerald, and then you have Laura becomes the person who starts saying the crazy shit during the fights, and it's pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie, she's pretty enjoyable. I know she gets a lot of flack. And why do you guys hate looking at pretty women on screen? I really don't get it. So
yeah, I mean, or listening to her when she actually makes perfectly fine points. I thought she was great on this broadcast personally. So
yeah,
no, I was pretty okay with all of that. I will say, since we're talking about it, that when I do my own commentary, I do commentary occasionally for Real Cage Fighting. I always try to emulate John Anik. That's my prototypical broadcaster. So I have a lot of admiration for Anik and Fitzgerald, as well. I think that pretty much right now, I really don't have a specific problem with any of the broadcast people.
I actually agree with that. Like, I don't know how people pick hairs on it. Like, okay, DC and Joe Rogan sometimes have their moments where they glaze way too hard, but other than that, like, they're decently enjoyable. Like, there's a reason that they get paid to do this. I'm not gonna lie. So
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Rogan, obviously a legend in the broadcast space, so you can't really deny that. So I mean, until they throw out somebody who is like noticeably
like when they did Mike, Goldberg.
Oh, Goldberg. See, Goldberg gets unfortunate flack too. Yeah, he was like, it was an earlier time of the sport, and he was not as knowledgeable about it. So he did sometimes say some goofy stuff, but you got to remember, it was just him and Rogan at the time. They didn't have three for the most part. So like,
a lot of filler.
Yeah, and it's filler, and it's also like, I don't cut the guy some slack. He's got a lot of fights to call. I don't know. I feel like people are hypercritical of some things. I miss Goldberg. I thought he had some great lines back. It's all over. Like that's iconic.
Listen, Deadly Pube, you want to make comments that I've never seen him. Honestly, facts live. I've never seen a fight, where he was on the commentary booth, but his voice is still iconic to me for somebody that doesn't that is more recent to keeping up with the sport, like 100%.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I would say he's to me, he's legendary. And the fact that he did not get a proper send off by the organization, I would really like to know like what actually went down behind the scenes. I was actually just talking about that with a friend of mine not too long ago. Shout out to the homie Dave. Appreciate that guy. But we were talking about that, and I was saying like there had to have been some weirdness that went down behind the scenes, because the organization is usually good about those types of things if you're in the good graces of the organization. If you are not, then they will quietly shuffle you out the door, and that's what happened to him.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, so that was a good little side rant. Just wanted to bring up the commentary crew. I thought we had a very good time on this one. So
I thought that this was fantastic all around, in my opinion. I really enjoyed this one. So let's get right on into it. UFC Fight Night, Lewis versus Teixeira. It took place at the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee, and it started with Fatima Klein versus Melissa Martinez. Before we get into the fight proper, just want to shout out everybody in the chat: Beeb, Deadly Pube, Saw the homie, TJF, and of course the Vitz King. Appreciate you, brother. We miss you too, man. We will hopefully be back together, reunited sooner than later. So anyway, Fatima Klein versus Melissa Martinez. What did you think of this fight, sir?
Golly, I remember a couple weeks ago that I said sometimes you just gotta put your nuts down and you gotta make the call. And I was very confident that Melissa Martinez was gonna be able to do what she did for the first 2 rounds all the way until the bell. And I can't tell you how confident I was once the 3-minute mark passed or whatever. And this fight was very nice. I was very clean from Fatima. She did exactly what I expected her to do, put her on the back foot, didn't implement any grappling. She did shoot, it looks like, but I don't really remember her trying to take her down too much. Stood on the feet, basically showed that she has striking and that she's going to compete on the feet. And if it gets to the ground, she's gonna win that battle. She didn't prove that here, but she's done that in her past. Excuse me. But The third round, of course, comes down to a flurry, and then we get a monster fucking head kick from Fatima Klein to Melissa Martinez, where she drops her and then gets a nasty, brutal TKO finish. And before I let you finish, before I let you go, and let her finish, I think what is key is that I want everybody to know that I think this was one of the first 4 or 5 early-ish stoppings of the night. I think Melissa was getting up and the ref fucking shoved her to the mat, bro. It was annoying. Like, bro, she's getting pounded, right? Okay, cool. But she's like lifting herself up, standing up, and the ref fucking just, oh my God, that pissed me off so much right there. Like, she had a chance. And like, obviously, Fatima loved the finish. Great fucking performance. But and I'm coping a little hard, but damn, he really did dive on her while she was trying to get up, and that was a little fucked up, but great finish. So go ahead.
Yeah, that was not one that I noticed as an early stoppage. I would have to go back and specifically look at the finish there of that one. I rewatched it, but I wasn't picking up on that specifically. But I really, I mean, it was kind of a foregone conclusion that Klein was going to win this thing. So, it was like, it's an early stoppage is always shitty, obviously. But I mean, Klein is, I said it on the broadcast. I'll say it here too. I think that Klein might have champ potential at some point down the line. She's got all of the makings, like the attributes that you want to see. And I think she also has the confidence that you want to see as well, as far as like her control of everything. Cause that was my big note early in this fight, was that she had such dominant pressure and measured activity. Like, she really was picking shots nicely while maintaining a good pace and good volume. And like Martinez, she seemed very unsure of what the best attack strategy was. And so because of that, you have consistent good output on one side. You have an unsure opponent who's trying to figure it all out in real time. That bodes very well for the person keeping the consistent pace.
Mhm.
And if there were any jitters or any kind of stuff early on in Klein's head, then, I mean, over the course of that first round, it had to have gone straight out the window once she started realizing that was the case. This fight is a great example of what happens when you don't establish a respect level early in the case of Melissa Martinez. Klein sees no major opposition in round 1. She gets her hands on her briefly. Round 2 gets her hands on her earlier in that round, starts banging knees to the body. You have your opponent. You have to get your opponent concerned about what's coming back, and the inactivity from Martinez is not going to accomplish that.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, all around, I thought this was just amazing for Fatima. Speaking, champ potential, obviously, it's written all over. At 8-1, the skills are all there, the confidence is there. If I will compare her to somebody real quick, I think as I say all those attributes, I kind of relate a little bit to Peyton Talbot. I don't know why that's what I'm getting. I'm getting the same vibes there. And hopefully she proves better than what the next performance may be if I'm relating her to Peyton Talbot. But this, she's just awesome. I really do believe. And, she trains with Erin Blanchfield. So these girls really have a good team, around them where they can develop, quickly and efficiently, because Erin Blanchfield also was coming out here, smoking women really early. And now she's trying to get in the title picture. But as people are pulling out of fights, and, that just shows that she's a pretty good competitor. The lack of competition that she's able to find, it means people aren't wanting to find her. So I think that's key. And Fatima might run into that same issue. Is I love the activity from her. She's obviously been in here a couple different times that I've seen quickly since her debut, and that was actually just a little bit of a year
It
ago,
was
maybe a little
it
under.
was almost a year to the day, I think they said on
Yes.
the broadcast.
So love it from her, but it might slow down once people realize how good she is. I mean, Josh Van ran into the same issues. So
Yeah, hey, and it's it's a good problem to have, I
yeah.
mean, it's like, obviously, if you're starting to scare the rest of the division, that's saying something without having to do much, I
Mhm.
mean, obviously, what you're doing is enough, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
One of the things that she does that I did want to mention, because I really liked it and I picked up on it on the watch along, was she throws that. I don't even know exactly what you'd call it, but it's like I want to call it like a vertical elbow, like,
Mhm.
because a lot of times you see the elbow from the side, or you see the elbow going up, like up and down, but like she throws it like up and over, like she
Mhm.
lifts her arm, kind of like almost throwing her shoulder forward to throw the elbow. And I was like, that's a really nice little slick move that you can just toss in whenever you have the opportunity for. And she did it several times in the fight. So I was like,
Right.
I like that move. So I appreciate that she likes, is finding opportunities where other people might not have seen them. And then, of course, the kick that ended everything was a thing of beauty. What I loved about that was that if you saw the angle that she threw it from, she didn't have full leg extension. She was in close range. So it
Mhm.
was kind of an awkward angle. She was a little bit closer than you normally would want to be to get your leg fully extended. So all of the power from the kick came from the shin portion of her
Yeah.
leg. And to be able to generate that much power to actually accomplish the TKO, I was like, this is a really impressive knockout here. So yeah, really nothing but high praise for Klein. On the Martinez side, this just didn't seem like the type of fight that I would have expected from her. She seemed like she was apprehensive to get into close range, which when you're the shorter, kind of more bulldogish, fast twitch kind of a fighter, like you need to be willing to take a couple of shots to get into range to give some of your own. And she was trying to stay on the outside and kind of pick shots like from range, and that was never going to be a game plan that was going to be successful, I don't think.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I mean, I obviously knew Fatima was going to get this done. She even knew she was going to get this done. She said she was going to finish her. It wasn't in the first round, but it definitely did come eventually. I thought Martinez was going to be able to dance her way to the decision, and I unfortunately, I was wrong. But here's my thing. The last two times that Fatima has fought, that I've bet on, I've put her by decision, and now of course I've been wrong both of those times. But surely, and we're going to talk about this here in a little bit, surely she can't go 3 for 3. Like, I got to go decision again on this one. So we'll talk about, what I'm foreshadowing there in a little bit. But
For
either way,
sure. Yeah.
Fatima by decision next fight to lock it in.
All right, right on. But yeah, nice knockout here. And it was Fatima Klein's birthday as well.
Yep.
So nice present to herself in the form of a win.
Yeah. She makes the purple trunks look good. Give her
Yeah,
that.
absolutely, absolutely. It was also nice to see her family and the crowd cheering her on. So
True.
good stuff. Yeah, really, just a kind of a feel good story all around for Fatima Klein. Back
Oh,
to the
Aaron
drawing
was in
board.
her corner. Sorry, I wanted to
Yes, yes,
mention
she
that too.
was. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. So, like you had mentioned already, I mean, quality team and workers. I mean,
Yeah.
that's something I would definitely say about Erin Blanchfield. You can tell that she's a hard worker in this sport, and that rubs off on people that she trains with. So,
Yep.
yeah, good
Absolutely.
stuff. Yeah, really nice. Hopefully Martinez can pick it up in her next one. But all Fatima Klein on this one.
All right.
Moving on to the next one here is Mitch Ramirez versus hometown hero Mike Davis. Kill or be killed streak continues for Ramirez.
Yeah, I actually wanted to note off rip how I thought it was funny at the time because I often do forget that this is like the stories of the sport kind of deal. So when the fight started, and I don't remember if it was Brendan or Laura. I want to say it was Laura, but I don't know. I doubt it. And they're talking about how Mitch Ramirez did some time in prison or whatever. And I was like,
Sure.
holy God, like this guy here, like, okay, he might be the real deal if he came out here ready to like hunger is different,
Right.
so I always just think about that, like, man, they stick out to you in your brain, stuff you don't really forget, like Mitch Ramirez. He's a dude that's done time, like, and that's known, so I just wanted
Yeah,
to note that
I
first.
loved I had that as well. I loved the story about him like taking pictures out of the magazine and like posting them on the wall with like deodorant as the glue in the jail cell. I'm like, yeah, that's some real deal shit right there. That like that prison craftiness, the MacGyver element of being in prison, like
and
that's some real shit.
And then I think this is because, well, in the first round, there was not much going on. Mike Davis gets the back immediately, and he just sits there for the entirety of the first round. Because the reason I bring that up right now is I think there was a conversation between DC and the other commentary about prison foods and how they jerry rig their food sometimes, and like I I'm like I'm listening to it. I'm like, I mean, he's not wrong, but like, is there nothing else we can talk about right now? Like, he's like, man, they got the ramen noodles sometimes and they can cook it. They make the wine in the toilet. I'm like, why
No,
are
did
y'all
he?
talking?
He didn't
Yes,
really.
yes, dude, I'm telling you, I swear, I swear, I swear, I swear. But either way,
Okay. Well, yeah, no. So
it's
for
not
that
some wine that I would taste, but like shit like that.
Yeah, that is definitely a DC thing to say.
Uh,
Um, But yeah, no. So in the first round, yeah, Davis gets the high crotch single leg, and the slam was really nice, right into that, the back and the rear naked choke attempts for the entirety of that round. You're definitely right, and that was my big note on the Davis side of everything. Excuse me, that it was concerning to me that he wasn't able to find the submission with that amount of control and that level of control, because I mean he got him down so quickly and went right into position. I mean, yeah, Ramirez was fighting the hands, but that's, he's going to fight the hands. That's obviously what he's going to do. So it's like I was a little bit surprised by him not being able to get it with the, like, I mean, the body triangle was really nicely secured. I
Yeah.
remember shouting out the homie Cody Gibson on that one. I was like, that would be a body triangle that Cody would appreciate. And so it's like if you have him that dead to rights as far as like the control portion of everything goes, then it was a little concerning that he wasn't able to actually get the submission, because really the only thing left was to find the actual angle for the
Or
choke.
transition to mount and, get the TKO or something. He was
Right.
able to do whatever to him in the grappling, it seemed. And all it ended up being was, one of those moments where Mitch gets to hype the crowd because he's not getting subbed and, he's having a great time,
He was
and
having a little too much fun in there.
yeah. So I think it was unfortunate for Mike Davis that he did not get the first round finish because, man, you had 4.5 minutes on his back. Like,
Exactly.
that is the whole round, my guy. And then in the second round, he actually started very slow. And I don't know if this was because he was genuinely tired from grapple, from holding the body triangle for the entirety. I don't know how he should be more tired than the guy that he was holding down, kind of deal. But that's what it seemed to me. In hindsight, maybe it was good game planning. Start out real slow in the second round because I won the first round no matter what. And he started out slow. Mitch Ramirez actually had some decent success on the feet for a second. Getting, the crowd was actually behind him for a moment. They were thinking he was going to do it. And I did think Mike Davis was a slouch again. I'm like, oh my God, no way. You're about to be gassed after that first round and then get finished. But unfortunately, he let Mitch Ramirez throw himself out very, very quickly into the second round, which was a good vet move, I guess, if it was game planning. Mike Davis obviously hunts for the finish and gets it, and thankfully he did because now he's not on the shit list. After the first round, it was close. It was close.
Well,
But
and I want to say, I believe, because I know exactly what you're talking about with like the optics of how he looked going into that second round. I want to say that Mike Davis might have the same thing going for him that Alexandre Pantoja has, where he looks worse off than he actually is.
I don't know if it's that I think it's different because my eyes, Pantoja visually looks tired, but he's not like physically kind of deal. Mike Davis, he just looks like he's standing there. Like at the beginning of the run, he's just kind of just standing around. He's just walking straight up. He's not doing much. He's just kind of waiting for him. And yeah, maybe he was, waiting for him to throw himself out early because he did a lot of grappling in the first. I don't know, but it actually looked like the Mike Davis that we saw in the first, the last instance where he was so gun shy, not quick to pull the trigger. That's what I saw at the beginning of the second round. Thankfully, he turned it around and we got a late finish, right? 4 minutes in, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
grateful that he did get that.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And what I had said too is that it really sucks that Mitch Ramirez isn't like technically better, because he's definitely a dog. You can tell that this guy is like all heart. And I
Mm.
actually like I kind of gained a little bit of respect for him. I'd say that maybe he was having a little too much fun in that first round. Like, bro, yeah, it's all good that you're fighting all of this stuff off, but you have clearly dropped the round. So maybe you don't be smiling and playing to the crowd as much. But in that second round, you saw that he really is like about his shit. I mean, he will strike with you. He'll go punch for punch with you.
I actually wanted to pose a question because I'm sitting here thinking you're like it sucks that he's not technically proficient. And I'm like, well, he did spend 9 years, in prison or whatever. But then I got to thinking maybe I should ask this question: Why don't they, teach MMA in prisons? Like
Because
as
they'd have
I
inmates
mean
fighting
I
each
mean
other.
I get it. That was my first thought too. But like it's a community bonding thing. You don't necessarily see everybody fighting each other in all the clubs. Like they don't hate each other. Maybe it would be a bonding experience. I don't know. Maybe I posed the question to all the wardens out there. You bring Stephen Wonderboy Thompson around, you bring him and you say, teach these guys how to throw a sidekick. And then there you go. And I think we could do a lot. I think a lot of people will get their sentences lowered for good behavior. I'm just
I
saying.
think think you are cooking with a recipe for disaster, is what that sounds like to me. But I
Mitch
mean,
Ramirez would have benefited from it though, because he probably would have came out here more technically proficient. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying,
true.
guys.
Yes, that is it's a good point. I mean, yeah, it's not that he like is terrible. Obviously, he fought the hands long enough to not get submitted.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So there are like aspects of the game that are definitely there, and he is tough. It's just a matter of putting all of that together in a way that's going to win you the fight, and you know,
Mhm.
and also I think being aware, having like the fight IQ to to realize when the tide is shifting, when you should probably level change. Like by the time that because what happened to for the ending sequence was that it was a switch knee that started it, and right then when that knee landed, the knee it wasn't what put him out. It was the several shots thereafter, which were all very nicely placed by Davis. You know, his boxing is pretty good. And
Mhm.
he was talking about that, afterwards as well, how much of his boxing and all this. I'm like, yeah, all right, I don't know about all that. But um,
We got to get into his post-fight speech. I just
yeah, for
remembered it now because he started it by saying, you guys know at heart, I'm a wrestler, I've been doing this my entire life. And then he ends his speech by saying, you guys know I'm love to box. I'm a boxer, baby. It's like,
yeah.
whoa, what are you talking about, dude? Oh my
Yeah, I
goodness.
mean, keep it in perspective, I suppose, is what I would say to Davis. But yeah, I mean, look, he obviously got the knockout, so he's doing something right there. But
Yep.
what I was saying, and I'll just finish the thought, was that once that switch knee landed, that should have been the signal to Ramirez that it was time to change the strategy. Either you get the hell out of the way, or you level change, or you do something aside from turtling up and allowing those several other shots to follow through.
Mhm.
So that would be the. It's like it seems like with Ramirez, like there are just a few holes in the game that might be fixable. Like I don't want to count the guy out. He is only 8-3, so I mean there is probably time to improve, but he's racking up the losses. I think that this was one where he came back into the organization, if I'm not mistaken, or I remember we were talking about last week, like that he had his record was less than great.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, no, he was on Contender Series and then did
but
not get signed and then went to
right.
LFA and came back.
Yeah, so exactly. So I mean, it's like he's still like at that bubbling beneath the surface
Mhm.
kind of level where it's like I feel like if he fixes a couple of things, he could probably be pretty effective. But like now is really the time that you have to fix those things because you're not going to keep getting these shots.
It's unfortunate that we run into this kind of, and I know Mike Davis is not no fucking killer. And listen, after this performance, some people will argue, and we'll stand on that. But Mitch Ramirez got thrown to the wolves on this one, and somebody like Mark the Shark Choinsky, whatever his name was, same deal. He goes into the fire, and you're just there to make fans. Like that's really all you have to put into perspective. Is like more people are gonna know you after this performance. Whatever happens in the cage, as long as you do what you do, I mean, as long as you know you're entertaining, of course, and you do what you do, then you shouldn't really have a care in the world. Mitch Ramirez, obviously, when he comes back out, I want to be like, that's the guy who did fucking 9 years. Like that's that guy right there. And then he might come out and knock somebody out. I mean, that's what he does. So we'll see.
Yeah, I hope so. Because like I said, I think it's just a couple of minor tweaks that could really make him a lot better. And after with a story like that, I'd certainly like to see him succeed. I appreciate guys who turn their lives around in a positive way, like he has. And yeah, I wish him success. It's just you got to these problems at this level are only going to get worse the more that you're around, and you only get so many shots at the UFC. It's just
Yeah.
back to life. So.
Well, I mean, some people get a lot, but you're not those some
Yeah.
people, unfortunately, Mitch. I hate to break that one to you. You're gonna have to do a lot of work, and you do a lot of work. You put in some good work. I saw it in the cage. But the next performance, I mean, Mike Davis is not the highest ceiling. So if you couldn't get
Right.
past his grappling in the first round and you couldn't get past his hands in the second round, somebody else is definitely going to put something on you that you're not going to be able to handle. So that's just my takeaways.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But love to see it for Mike Davis representing Orlando, Central Florida stand up on that one. So I was happy about that. And yeah, just a quality win for him. And I'm sticking by what I had said last week about, Saudi Arabia and the paint fumes being why he was out of sorts. And this is the better version of him. He said, that wasn't me in there, whatever. I'm like, this is the way that you prove that. So
Mhm.
good shit.
I definitely agree.
Yeah, right on. All right. Well, coming into the next fight here, Kennedy and Chezuku versus Walter Walker. sticking with the guns paid off for once for Thinker St. James. I am very happy about this. Finally, I actually make a tough call that turns out to be correct. And it was very unfortunate that there is the soundbite of you out there saying there's no way that this guy can get 3 heel hooks in a row.
If you be fair though, if you go further back, I have been saying potentially he is going to be the heavyweight submission GOAT. And I wasn't too far off, and I should have had a little more faith in him. But if I could for a moment cope, this fight started, Kennedy looked locked in. Like in the face, he did his little John Jones crawl. He was ready. He was low stanced. And the initial encounter was exactly what Vegas saw as the winning method, because Walter Walker put his head down and charged at him across the cage. And listen, Kennedy did really good on the first one. He stepped to the side, pushed his head off, and then he started laughing at him like, ha ha ha, I got you. And then he gets popped with a jab, and then he looks like a fucking idiot because he's already up against the cage.
Right.
And then Walter takes him down, gets his back immediately. And genuinely, I saw wizardry on Saturday. I genuinely believe that what I saw was next level when it comes to grappling in the UFC, because one, heel hooks are very uncommon. To lock in a heel hook, I mean, you got to be really going for it, and you got to be confident that you're going to get it, because you got to go like on the ground to get it most of the times. Second, heavyweight submission artists, like the list doesn't really get much bigger than 4 or 5, and he's already on it. So the fact that he got 2 heel hooks in a row puts him on a short list. 2 heel hooks in a row in any organization, I mean, other than like a grappling tournament, is probably pretty nuts. Then he comes out here, he's got Kennedy's back, and with the movement of a god, he jumps to his back, pulls guard, and he has the sixth sense knowing that Kennedy's going to pivot and turn away because he already has his elbow locked. And as soon as Kennedy lifts his leg, the heel is in and he turns and he's already cranking. And at the moment, what is really funny as I'm watching, I'm like, oh my God, no, he's not tapping. But then the dude is screaming for his life. I'm like, oh God,
yeah.
damn it. I'm like, oh Jesus fucking Christ.
It was such a quick motion. Yeah, it was really the setup was a thing of beauty. Now, someone had said that he had shown, actually, I guess Lorosenko on the broadcast also confirmed that he had shown off that setup on social media, and I guess also showed it to Lorosenko before the fight. So like, he had been drilling that exact setup, and to be able to execute it in competition like that was really something spectacular, I have to say, because we have seen heel hooks from him specifically, but we've seen heel hooks, like you said, they're rare, but we've seen them before. But I don't know if I've ever seen that specific setup. I was trying, because like somebody had said,
that's not that specific setup. I would highly doubt, but jumping guard for the heel hook, I think the only other person I've seen do that and get it was Ryan Hall or something on BJ Penn kind of deal.
True. Yeah. That tracks. I mean, but yeah, that drop down to between Kennedy's legs, and to have all of those things that you just outlined in mind as like a sequence, it really was very impressive. And as I had said on the watch along, I'm like, guys, he might be the better Walker brother here.
Mm-hmm.
So, if there's always one sibling that's going to outshine the other one, maybe we just haven't seen the better one yet for whatever reason, but we've seen what we've gotten from Johnny. Walter is making a pretty goddamn good case for being the better one.
Listen, okay, so I will give credit where credit is due. 3 submissions in a row, 3 heel hook submissions in a row is very, very nuts, very classy. Obviously rip your opponent's leg off, do whatever you got to do. But will this continue to will it continue to work? I don't know. I don't know what we're going to see as his competition. But should this work against a high-level mixed martial artist? Probably not. This dude, again, his instinct was to put my head down and just run across the cage. And we've seen it done before, but it is sometimes set up a little better. Hopefully, if Walter Walker is actually wanting to compete, I know the heel hook thing is your thing, but there's going to be a time where you don't get it and you get your head smashed in. Like there was a reason he was an underdog, and I think that first sequence was exactly what they were seeing. Kennedy would be able to evade, swipe, and just shove him out the way and get by. The next person probably will be able to do that again, but they probably won't goof off and let Walter do it a second time across the fucking cage. And I listen, prospects, heavyweights, I do. It's a weird spot right now. I don't want to admit who I think is actually the prospects because I've been wrong already. Hamdi was a flop. Walter Walker may be the guy, but guys, another submission. We can't go 4 for 4. I mean, I will be on record right now saying he will not get a fourth submission, guys. It's just not going to happen. I mean, listen. Listen. He's going to go up against Shamil Gaziev next, and Shamil is going to stuff the takedowns and just box his head off. That's my apropos right there.
All right, fair. I mean, you heard it here first. Clip it, people.
Do it.
We'll see what happens next Walter Walker fight. But no, you make a good point about this. Like, once you have something that is this defining of your strategy, obviously everybody's going to know exactly what they need to train to, evade. Now, we also know that there are people like Hamzat who you can train any 8 million different ways to Sunday and know exactly what he's going to do, and it doesn't matter because he'll still just do it anyway. I don't know if Walter Walker's necessarily of that caliber, but my point is, and I think that this is the wild card of all of this, is that current heavyweight is such a no man's land right now that this probably will work on at least, because they were asking me after the fight, like, where would you place him now? And because he himself, I guess, said he didn't think that he was like of the caliber of being ranked yet. And I was like, fuck that. You are, bro, put him right in against Tai Tuivasa immediately. I mean, that's an easy one right there. But like, my point,
no, because he'll actually get a fourth heel hook on that dude.
Well, that's my point, though, is that that's what I'm trying to say is that, like, yes, having one thing that is a defining feature of your game is not a smart game plan, because then everybody knows exactly what to be aware of. But it's heavyweight right now. So even if a lot of these guys are aware of it, like fucking, we're going to talk about the Tafa fight in a little while. The fact that everybody knows that all you have to do is to get them to the ground, and then that's, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like, the heavyweight is just not equipped for these types of performances. And that, I think, is the bigger problem. So can he be successful with this going forward? Probably not at the top of the division. I mean, I don't think that he's winning a belt with a heel hook necessarily, but I do think that he could probably get himself into the top 10 with it.
Yeah, it is tough to say. Walter, if you are listening out there, I would like to just say that I am criticizing you because I would like you to be better. The striking up top and the shooting from across the cage, it did work, and I give it to you. You got a 54-second submission, but I don't know, man. It's just hard for me to see that this is going to be the championship material. Like, this is the way you win championships. But I've been proven wrong before, and like I said, Walter's not horrible because obviously he's doing things that nobody's ever done before. You have to actually admire that, at least. Like, this is something that people will talk about for the rest of time. Like, that will be on the top left or the bottom left corner of the thing when it's got the stats, and it's like most submissions in heavyweight history. When Jailton Almeida fucking fights next, it's gonna have this dude right here. So
right. Yeah, no, and I understand the skepticism, but I think that what I am appreciating about this, especially from him and Jailton and possibly Bichetta, the guy that's coming in soon, is that when you introduce these heavyweights that actually have a submission skill set, it really does change the landscape of a division that is sorely lacking that. It's lacking well-roundedness. It's lacking the ability to counteract a lot of the things that we're seeing with these kind of guys. So I think that it's a good shakeup in general to get more actual mixed martial artists in heavyweight. The fact that they were talking about that on the broadcast, and it's such a crazy thing to think about, that Rizvan Kuniev lost his fight with Curtis Blades and is ranked number 15 right now off of a loss. That should tell you everything you need to know about the current crop of heavyweight. That's what the whole point of what this card was supposed to be. This was the whole thing of trying to get Taliesin Teixeira to come in and be the new blood and blah, blah, blah. So I like that there is a changing, at least an evolution of the type of skill sets that we're seeing in the division. Now, how effective those will always be is going to be dependent on the individual fighter and who they're fighting and all of that stuff. But the more that you have that as something to be aware of, it fundamentally alters the way that the division is made up and shakes out. And that I can appreciate because it's sorely needed right now.
It really sucks to see because at the beginning of the year, we saw a lot of heavyweights getting cut. And we were assuming that they were making way for Contender Series and whatever else they had going. That didn't really pan out yet because the people that we've replaced, like you said, Kunaev is 15th ranked. We removed Romanov, and he was 15th ranked. And I actually was going to say that Walter Walker would have a very tough time with Alexander Romanov, but Kunaev's now 15th ranked, and we got a dude that we kicked out to go win $500,000 at PFL. So.
Indeed. So yeah, I mean, I guess really the summation of all of this is a really nice another highlight for the record. I mean, this actually is a serious highlight, I would say. I mean, that's going to be one that you're going to be seeing on the promo clips pre-fight for Walter Walker going forward, most definitely. Can he do it again? It's going to start to become a little bit more difficult as people become more aware of it, probably, but we're just going to have to see who they put him up against. Like I said, put him up against Tai Tuivasa. You get Tai right the hell out of there. You don't have to worry about Tuivasa anymore. I mean, I like Tai, don't get me wrong, but he is pretty much just a big dude who punches and drinks beer out of shoes. So I like that this is shaking things up. Good win for Walker here. It sucks that it was against Kennedy because we were both talking about how nice Kennedy has been at heavyweight. And there's nothing to say that he can't be that again. This was a situation.
Oh, well, his ankle's fucked, so he's going to be out for a little bit.
Yeah, he'll definitely be out for a while with the amount of twerking that he was doing. If you saw the close up on that, he was in so much pain.
I mean, it probably tore something.
Yeah, I would suspect that there probably was some damage done there. But so we'll see what ends up happening with him and how he comes back and everything. But I am very happy about Walter Walker getting this, and I'm happy for what it means for heavyweight because there needs to be massive overhauls at heavyweight.
The last two things that I'll say is Kennedy. Damn, I forgot the first thing. Well, the second thing that I'll say is that Walter Walker, with this skill set, in my opinion, loses to Teixeira, loses to Spivak, obviously loses to Jailton. I think Shamil probably would win that one. Tuivasa, sure. I mean, yeah, he probably beats him. I'll give you that.
But I mean, so you say that, but I mean, we haven't seen or had to see from Walker what it's going to be like against a guy like that yet. So I mean, I will give him the benefit of the doubt until we actually see him with against a fighter like that. Because yeah, if he goes out there and just gets starched, or if he gets held up against the cage the entire time or whatever, like there are a number of different ways that like a more savvy wrestler and grappler will handle a person like that. But I got to see it first before I'm just automatically going to count him out,
The other thing that I wanted to mention is this is one of two. I had two absolute locks that I was very confident for on this card. We'll talk about the other one. One of them, well, both of them got finished in the first round by submission. So that should just let you know how this card went for me, guys. And this was one of them, and we'll talk about another here in a little bit.
Yeah, not a great day for Africa, unfortunately.
True.
But yeah, so great win for Walker. I am very happy that I stuck with my guns. And
there's actually one last thing I wanted to mention.
Sure,
I know I texted about it in the Discord. So going back to the Junior Tafa matchup with Walter Walker, where he got his second heel hook, and we were confused on what was actually the case, where it was a verbal tap or what was actually happening. Why was Junior mad after the fact? In hindsight, after I've seen both of their performances on Saturday, what I believe happened, Walter had the heel hook. Tafa was yelling, stop. He didn't stop until the ref jumped in, and that's why he was mad, because he didn't stop twerking his leg.
I'm glad you brought it up, because my thing with that was that he didn't yell stop. He yelled. He was just yelling. He was just going, ah.
Well, Kennedy was too, I mean, to be fair.
Yeah, but I mean, he tapped though. I mean, he definitely like hit the
after.
tap.
I mean, yeah, I get you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it could have been, and yeah, I would think that there probably is a little bit of validity to it. If I mean, you don't stop until the ref says stop. Yeah. So I think that actually, like in hindsight, all worked out pretty appropriately. But I could see, if that's the perception from the top.
Well, because there's some fighters out there where it's like, kicking the knees or tearing ligaments and stuff, where it's like, you don't go that far. Come on, we're trying to compete here. Let's ruin my career type of thing.
Yeah, well, and we're going to talk a little bit later on about oblique kicks.
Mhm.
I'm like, oblique kicks do seem to be becoming part of the meta more often now, and I mean those can be very very dangerous. So you
We're
might see
gonna get
more
into it
people.
if you really want to, dude. Why are people like so fascinated with the kicking of the knees? Like, okay, obviously getting your knee kicked it hurts, but like, bro, getting kicked anywhere, punched anywhere, that is the name of the game. It is inflicting damage.
It's the joint that's the issue, though. It's the
But
fact that you're attacking the joint specifically.
what is an armbar?
Yeah, no,
Like,
no, no. Well, no, I'm not saying that it should be illegal or anything
I
like that.
know.
I'm just saying that, like, if it is the part of like this new crop of like attacks that, because like, we were talking about that with elbows. Like, elbows didn't used to be so common. Now they're more common. If oblique kicks become more common, you could see a lot more like more serious injuries because of them. And that's just part of the game, of
I
course.
mean, it is part of the game. And I think I think it's kind of the people who don't necessarily enjoy or know too much about the grappling aspects of MMA. I think those are the people who are more upset about those type of attacks because in grappling, bro, a Kimura, that's like literally ripping your fucking shoulder and like off. Like, anything like that, an Americana, like that's snapping your elbow. That's anything like that. Those are just common things for them. Tap if it's gonna fucking break kind of deal. And getting kicked in the knee, it's the same fucking thing. It's just not it getting pulled on. It's just getting direct impact. It's still damage. And I think either way, I very valid. If you're gonna get kicked in the head and be okay with it, don't be mad at the kneecaps.
Oh
Like,
yeah, well, I mean, and that's the whole going back to what originally started the conversation. That's why the Tafa can't be too upset about
mhm,
how that all went down. I mean, yeah, if you're saying that he held it for longer than he needed to, okay, but if you didn't actually tap and you didn't actually say, tap or actually, tap the leg or do what, if you didn't indicate that you wanted to stop and the referee just stopped it, like what are you mad at? You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like if you're out, you're out. Like,
yep,
yeah, don't be too tough for your own good.
I agree. That
So
was the last thing I wanted to note on that
okay.
one.
Yeah, right on. All right, well, then let's move on to the next one here. Lauren Murphy versus Eduarda Mora. Unfortunately, went kinda to plan, I would say, but I was very happy with my performance from my queen, Lauren Murphy. I thought that she fought admirably all like through this fight. A little bit slow in the beginning, which I think was the problem. If the Murphy who fought round 3 of this fight had been fighting that way the entirety of the fight, she might have been able to pull off this win. I thought she might have had that guillotine for a second there in the third round too. So I thought that I understand why this went to Mora. I'm not mad about it. I think we called this one very accurately, but I still am proud of Lauren Murphy for this performance, all things considered.
I think you should be more proud about how you talked about Moira because I think you were more correct than me. And well, I want to hopefully say that I don't necessarily think I said she was going to be a superstar, but the UFC was putting the chips in her table is what I was getting to. This is a fight to build your resume. And you were more accurate by saying Moira is not somebody to be impressed with. She's not very good. She doesn't have a volume game. They talk about how powerful she is in the strikes, but she landed clean many times on Lauren. Didn't do anything to her. She didn't chase a finish. She didn't show her grappling very much. It didn't even work. She got almost subbed, and she gassed out, which was in her earlier bouts. That was the key. Is like she's gonna be really good if she doesn't gas out. She gassed out again. She gassed out every single time she's looking at the clock. And I don't know what the deal is. She doesn't necessarily impress me as much as I thought she was going to with how much the UFC believed in her for this matchup. On the other hand, saying that, and I know I had some harsh words about Lauren, and I'm going to stick to a little bit of them because, like I said, Moira, we now know is not that fucking girl. Lauren Murphy, on the other hand, lost to her for 2 rounds, and put up a gritty performance, which came back in the third round. She almost finished her. Like I said, the gilly was in. She actually had it. She just didn't switch to the high elbow. She didn't get the elbow all the way up. Maybe she was yanking on her arm. I don't know. She almost got it, didn't get it. Moira got out, and it was crazy to notice. It is 2025. Lauren Murphy just retired, winning the final round of her fight. I think that is actually crazy to note. And at 41 years old or whatever it was, yeah, shout out to her. She actually did make a decent fan of me. I know that's the last fight I'll ever see of her. But her post-fight speech was pretty cool. I actually kind of digged it.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to R6 Jerry, by the way, who is a student of Lauren Murphy, who was in the watch along chat for a little while. Cheering her on and everything. And I definitely, I was there doing that exact thing. And like I said, I thought that this was a pretty good way to go out, all things considered, based on all of the factors as we broke them down. I just think that part of the problem for Murphy in this fight was that takedowns were never going to be the path to victory. It just seemed that she didn't realize that early enough, and she didn't let her hands do the early work, which I think could have been a lot. I was saying that on the watch along, like when she went in for the initial entries, I was like, Moira is she's not bad on the ground. Like she has the basic skill set to understand what not to do and what basically to do on the ground to keep himself out of trouble, that kind of thing. And her takedown defense is not bad either. So, I was like, just throw your hands, like outpower her. That's going to be your better strategy. But it came a little bit too little too late. And I did want to give Moira a little bit of credit for some of her ground game, because there was one time, I believe it was in the first round, where Moira was on top and they were out in like open range, and Murphy was trying to like back herself to the cage, which was the right thing to do. Moira adjusted her body to get herself between the cage and Lauren, and I was like, that's a high level move. So I'll at least give her that level of respect to say like she has the basics down well enough. But that's, I think, where it ends, and I would say that she's rather basic as a fighter is kind of my criticism of Moira. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the whole deal there. It was unfortunate because I am a Murphy fan, like I said. It it is what it is. It's like, I think we like I said, we called it pretty accurately. And as I had said on the other episode, this should be an indicator to you to keep a close eye on who Moira's next opponent is. Because if Moira comes in at minus money against her next opponent, and it's somebody that you think is even, somewhat comparable of skills, then you might have a good dog on your hand.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really know if there's too much more that I have to say about Moira. Like I was really hoping to see some level of improvement that made me think like, yeah, this is the next prospect up. But what ended up happening was she showed me, decent grappling against Laura Murphy, and then gassing out after you grappled yourself to death. In the second round, she was tired. I'm surprised she won the second round, but Lauren really didn't get going until the third. It was kind of it wasn't close, but Moira, you could tell, is just she doesn't have a pace that she can put on another fighter. She has the pace that gets put on her, kind of
Right.
deal.
Yeah, absolutely. There's one other thing I did want to mention here, because we are going to talk about some refereeing related issues on this card. During, I want to say it was round one, it might have been round two, but I think it was round one. There was a time where Moira had Murphy on the ground, and then she decided to disengage and stood up, and Murphy kind of push kicked her up, and Blake Rice was the referee, and he was very adamant that it was a push and not a kick.
Mhm.
And that was interesting to me because I'm like, what exactly is the distinction there? I mean, like if your foot is doing a kicking motion, the only thing I could think of is if your foot is already making contact with the other
Yes.
body. So if that's the case, then I mean, like it would seem
No wind back.
right. Yeah. No actual distance between the kicking foot and the flesh of the other person. I like if that's the case, it just seems like something that like there's a lot of gray area in there, and having that as a distinction would be somewhat concerning for other situations. Like this one I think was probably pretty okay, because Moira was just like, what the hell, and then he was just like, nope, that was a push, you're good.
Mhm.
But I could just see that being a problem in other instances, I guess is what I'm trying to say here. So but you thought that was completely acceptable how that went down?
I think, I mean, if you're watching it, I mean, I don't know. It is a hard call, and I do know what you're talking about. And I did think at the time, I was like, whoa, but I was like, okay, whatever. I mean, he was cool with it. I do think it comes down to, there's your foot will leave or your like knee will just like straighten out. Like maybe
Sure.
that's more or less what he was paying attention to. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I just
It's yeah. Anytime the foot goes near the face with a grounded opponent, you should be saying, "Don't fucking kick him in the face. Don't do it. Just don't even play it." Just
exactly. Yeah. I mean, and I see there being more weird situations potentially down the line if you're not going to make a clear cut call one way or another as to how you handle that, I guess is what I'm
yeah.
trying to bring up. But anyway, that was the only other note that I had about this fight. This is, as we had mentioned, Lauren Murphy's retirement fight. So congratulations to her on a a storied career. As she had said in her post fight, she is a pioneer in this sport. She was fighting way before women had a as much of a place in the sport, and definitely not the level of limelight that they have now. So that shows how much of a dedication that she had to mixed martial arts, and I give her a lot of respect. And she's saying that she wants to become a judge now, or judge or a referee. I love that. I went on a whole little diatribe on the watch along about how important it is, and also how we don't. This is kind of unique in this sport, where like, I mean, you're a basketball guy. Is it common that players go on to become referees?
There is one specific instance. His name is Richard Jefferson. He is a referee sometimes, but he's also a commentator sometimes. So
So yeah, I mean, so I bring it up to say that it's I like this because it's a nice way to continue giving back to the sport by being a person who can officiate and judge fairly, knowing what you're supposed to see inside of the cage, where otherwise we might not get that. So I really like that Lauren Murphy is going into the officiating and refereeing side of the sport, because now we're going to hopefully get some better judging and reffing.
well, I wanted to make my funny first before I actually get into the serious note. It's like, yeah, thankfully she's going into, officiating or whatever. We do not need another person on commentary that we don't want to listen to. But in all seriousness, as we've seen people transition from this sport over into the officiating. Chris Liebman, I believe is his name.
Hell yeah.
There's a good one to drop for you. He's a judge. We don't actually see him too often in the UFC, which I don't know if it's like a conflict of interest type of thing, but
Yeah.
um,
I don't know why either, but yeah, it is good that he is, good to see him doing that too.
and I also wanted to bring up Dean Thomas as another one. He was somebody who was a fighter as well, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but he's more commentary
he
than
is, but he's
judging.
also like the head of like the medical, like the when there's like a tight call, they radio to him kind of deal, and he gives his opinion type of deal. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I
he's
guess it
like
is
an
commentary, but it feels like he's got more of an inner loop, and he's like at least on a level that's like not just the commentary kind of deal.
sure. Yeah, yeah, and he's a coach, of course, as well. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's nice to see people having the ability to continue to be active in the sport in some capacity. And I think that this is a great move for Murphy now that her fighting portion of her career is over. So
yeah,
yeah,
100%. She actually, I did joke about her being on commentary, but after her post fight speech, like she actually is pretty chill. I wouldn't mind listening to her if she had some shit to say. So.
yeah. She's a rough and tumble lady. I
Mhm.
mean, I think she's got a lot of life experience, and that's sometimes interesting to hear them talk. So.
She looks like somebody who's got a lot of life experience. I'll give you that.
All right. Well, before we move on to the next fight, did want to shout out to Andres, to Rick Allen, and to Pre. Appreciate all of you guys checking in. Thank you very much for being here. Let's keep this train moving here. Jake Matthews versus Chidi and Jukwani, the other fight that you had referenced as to being a quick finish here. And I what I'd said on the watch along for this one is that for me personally at least, and also based on the conversation we had last week, probably shouldn't be counting Jake Matthews out as much as I was, because I certainly I didn't think that there was anything really threatening about him coming into this fight. I didn't realize he had 22 fights in the UFC already. What a record.
That's pretty nuts. Random Aussie Jake Matthews goes from random to known Aussie Jake Matthews after this performance.
Fair.
And that is normally what you have to do in this business. I haven't been here long, so I ain't been watching 22 UFC fights from you, Jake. So the fact that I get to watch the one and you come out here and impress me, I mean, you must be that type of fighter. And I really kind of respect it. Maybe the title run does start now. But on the other end of this, yes, this was the most confident pick I had on the card. I said Chidi has got this in the bag. At this number, you are missing out. And unfortunately, he gets submitted in the first fucking round after the first encounter. And it was heartbreaking because like I said, the two picks that I had for this week that I was like, these are it. Like this is the money play. They both get submitted in the first round. And, I kind of want to chalk that up. Like, you can't do nothing about that, Chase. Walter Walker gets his submission, and it's the third submission in heel hook history by him. And then you get this one where Jake Matthews gets on the mic and he actually says, "That's a once in a fucking million thing right there that I just got. I would never, 20 times out of, I would never get that submission, but I did this time, and that's all that matters." And I respect it. That's all that matters. It's a make or miss league. You get that one position and you make it matter, and you could walk out of here with a minute a victory. And honestly, it felt like less because he had the choke in for a good amount of time. Chidi tried to shake him off at the last second, but it was way too late. And it was just pitiful by Chidi. And I really hated to see this performance.
See, no, I wouldn't want to go as far as to say it was pitiful by Chidi. What I felt from this was I actually felt a little bad for Chidi because in this instance, I really do think that he did everything correctly in the situation he was in, but it just wasn't enough based on what Matthews was doing. And that's probably where he was coming from as far as saying that it was like a once in a one in a million kind of instance of that all working out. Because, Senko was kind of harping on it a little bit with good reason. She was saying that it wasn't a rear naked choke, it was a short choke. And because of that, it was the angle, because when Chidi went to go shake him off, like basically how it all went down was that, Chidi started off with some kicks, whatever, out at open range. They clinch for a brief second. Jake trips him and quick transitions to the back and then backpacks. Chidi tries to shake him off, which was the right move. But then since it was the short choke, it only served to worsen the twerk on the actual the cinch of the choke. So that's I feel bad for Chidi because it was like, in the moment, all of those things were like, okay, he's on my back now. This is what I should do. Like, it's like check of all of the right things, and it still didn't equal up. So it's like, it's a hard one on that. So I don't want to be too hard on Chidi because those kicks were nice early. I mean, he had some really like nice, firm, hard kicks. I mean, you heard the crack of them and everything. It was just once Matthews had it all locked in, like, I guess in hindsight, it's very easy in hindsight to say, oh, you should have done this differently. But it's like, yeah, fight the hands before you try to shake the body, I guess.
Yeah. This one was just, it was hard. And like I said, this is just an off night for Chase. I haven't had a good night, but I just need one to make it special. And this one was just not the night for me. Chidi and Kennedy with the first round submission losses. It ain't never happening again. I'll tell you that. But Chidi, gosh, man, I'm really upset with this one. Like, this was my guy for real. Like, I felt really high on Chidi. Like, he's gonna 25-11 won't tell the story. I've seen how he fights, and he's a dog. And unfortunately, this is what I witnessed.
Yeah. I mean, really not all that much else to say about this fight, honestly, because it was really just very, very short. I mean, just over a minute's worth of fight, and pretty much the Jake Matthews show as far as all of the intensity of the action, aside from those kicks early from Chidi. So, the only other thing that I wanted to at least briefly touch on, and I don't know if you know more about this than I do, but somebody in the chat had mentioned, I guess Matthews is a follower of Islam. Is that true?
Oh, heck if I know. I
Oh,
mean,
no? Okay, I didn't know if that was
yeah.
something that maybe had been going around on social media that I
Yeah,
missed
no,
or something like
I
that.
have no idea, honestly. I figured he was just a normal, a random Aussie guy. I don't know what they do down there.
That was why I brought it up, is just because it was like, they were saying, yeah, it's kind of an odd,
Odd combination.
or uncommon, I guess, is more of,
Okay,
what
yeah,
what
odd
I
is
would
the
say.
wrong words. My
Yeah, it's
apologies.
just, yeah, also the presentation, he doesn't necessarily outwardly present that way. So I don't know if that is true or not, but I thought you might know. But either way, it's just something that could or could not be true, I suppose. We can
It
move
just
on.
reaffirms that there's all walks of life. Everybody does different things, and there's different stories for everybody that steps in the cage. That's what's so beautiful about this sport, everybody.
Well said, Chase. I appreciate that sentiment. All right. Shout out to Didgery Dave checking in. Appreciate you, brother. As we move on to the last fight of the prelims here, a little bit more to talk about on this one. Always with Chris Curtis fights. This is Max Griffin versus Chris Curtis. Go ahead. What did you think of this one?
I think I actually did really good about, I stood on business, and it actually held up the very next fight. I said Chris Curtis is a split decision merchant. In the very next fight against a subpar opponent, he gets a split decision. This was very unfortunate. Going down to a new weight class, you should have been able to pack more of a punch than you did, Curtis, but you have this style that doesn't lend you success. You throw 2 kicks in the fight, you shoot no takedowns, you don't try to control them in any manner. All you do is try to Philly shell and box the bloody head off of them. And unfortunately, it worked against Max Griffin, and one judge didn't even think so. So that's really the telling case here. If you think welterweight was going to be your new move, Max Griffin just took you to life and death damn near, dude. Like, he had you in the first round bloodied up from a headbutt that you cried about. Then there was some low shots that weren't even low. The first one was pretty scandalous, and I'm glad they went right back to the fighting. But what was nuts about it, and I don't know if you caught this, after the low kick, the ref sends him to the corner. Chris Curtis just walks over to his he goes, talks to his corner. Like, the ref just doesn't give a fuck.
Oh no,
Like,
I didn't see that. Yeah, that's
he's talking to Max Griffin, like, you got to keep it low. Chris Curtis is just talking to Eric Nixick, like, having a good time. It's like, what happened to the nut shot? Like, so
yeah,
anyway,
right.
it goes back to Chris Curtis and his antics. He has this whole, it sucks that it's like ingrained in his brain that the organization is against him, because anything that happens, he thinks it is a fucking a third party hit against him. Max Griffin headbutts him. He looks at the officiator, like, Dana, like, what aren't you fucking stopping it for? And I don't know. It's absolutely insane. So there was multiple times where Chris Curtis is complaining about eye pokes, headbutts, dick shots, cage grab, everything in the book you could think of. And he gets a split decision win. And if he got the split decision loss, we'd never hear the end of it. He'd say every one of those reasons. Here's why I lost this round. Right here's the headbutt. Here's why I lost this round right here, because of the dick kick. And it just sucks that this is somebody that I really do want to represent. But when I see a fight that you have, dude, Michael Chiesa finished this dude. I know it was submission, but like, Chris Curtis, you are not some slouch, dude. Like, you are actually impressive and you are powerful when you are on it. Dude, but like this one right here, even later in the round, the coaching was yelling, dude, throw the knee, throw the knee. It's like, dude, you should have been throwing that way earlier. You should have been ripping him into the body every time you guys got close. I know Max Griffin was playing the outside and he was, keeping distance very well. And you tired him out. I thought was actually very good. In the third round, you tired him out and had him on the ropes so easily. You just refused to cut off the cage and actually throw power shots that would stop him from evading and getting out of the corner. It just really sucked to see, honestly. But split decision win, we'll take it. If we didn't, we'd never hear the end of it. He'd get Twitter again. They even made a note about that. He's off social media now. He's more clear-minded. If he lost, holy shit, that shit is activated the second he walks out of it.
True. Yeah. No, I made the comment on the watch along that Chris Curtis has a good amount of white woman in him, and this fight certainly reinforced that. Yeah, Didgeridoo Dave coming through with the similar sentiment there. Also, shout out to Diego with basically the same thing as well.
It sucks that that's like we always talk about the reputation that you live or that you leave, and like when you walk in the cage, if you are in your mind thinking that shit's gonna go wrong and everything that does, it's a fight, things are gonna happen. A lot of people get poked in the eye and they don't complain about it. We'll talk about it later. And a lot of things happen. And you just got to push on, and you got to be a true fighter that wants to be gritty and get down to it. I'm tired of watching the fights, and every time there's something going on, they even say it on the commentary. It's like, it wouldn't be a Chris Curtis fight without something going wrong. And it's like, dude, like, I get it's a fight, but like, you in some manner, you are also leading with your head. Like, he actually started doing that later, which was really funny to me. He started to try to fucking headbutt Max Griffin because he got away with it in the first fucking round, and he's been crying about it ever since. Chris Curtis is fucking leading with his fucking head, trying to headbutt him and shit. It's really funny to me that this is the type of fights that I watch from this guy. At least the impression that he leaves. That's what's key. Maybe it's not exactly what was happening. Maybe he wasn't intentionally. It's what it looked like to me. He was getting frustrated that Max Griffin was getting away with everything and he couldn't do anything, at least in his mind. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get mine, and I'll swing my head a little bit, but I don't know.
Yeah, fair. I mean, he certainly went to the Cody Brundage school of weird shit happening in fights. That's absolutely the case. I
Give him a co-main event, and these dudes are fucking twins. Like,
yeah, for real. But yeah, this fight kind of just bothered me in general, aside from just the Chris Curtis side of things, because I was starting off. I mean, that first round, like, and even farther into the fight beyond the first round. But Max was so active on his feet, but he didn't pair it with the activity from his hands. So you got to throw as well as keeping your movement up, or it's all style over substance. He eventually picks up the pace, but the consistency could have won him this fight, especially considering it was a split decision in the end. So then, of course, as you mentioned, Curtis milks that legal shot to the stomach that was counted as a low blow. But all right, whatever. I'm not going to,
They didn't show the other angle of it either. That's how you know it was fucking clean as hell. They
yeah,
didn't want to hear the booze early. They got the shit started right away.
yeah. That was, I was like, okay, dude. Now it's already a Chris Curtis fight here. Then yeah, as you mentioned, the head clash. It just always weird shit. But my thing, even beyond those, the weird stuff was, so we talked about Max and the inactivity, but I felt like Curtis just was not putting out enough himself throughout this whole thing. Like stayed in Griffin's face with pressure and threw such low volume towards the end of the fight. I'm just like, bro, you like somebody has to actually want to win this fight.
It's the same thing that we'll talk about later with Calvin Kattar. They have a heavy boxing style, and Laura actually brought it up a great point. It's like a lot of boxers lead with the jab. That's how you start everything. And if you can't get the range down and you can't find the jab, then you're gonna be stalling and you're gonna be in a stalemate type of thing. Chris Curtis, he doesn't necessarily he doesn't pop a traditional jab, but he throws something out there, and he's always trying to just look for something, but he's never getting in the range that can. It's I don't know, dude.
All right, well then explain to me then in round 3 when Curtis finally does start to pick up a little and Max is completely gassed. Curtis trips Max, looks down and laughs at him instead of engaging, bro.
Dude, I know, and this is exactly the type of shit that I'm talking about. Why it's frustrating to watch, Chris Curtis sometimes, and shit like that. I don't know. Max Griffin actually was the more impressive story here. I actually thought for somebody that I know got finished by Michael Chiesa in round 1 or whatever. He came out here and put on a dogfight. Max Payne, I mean, he actually did look like he was living up to the name right there. I mean, I can see how you would get a name like that. And you come out here and slug with Chris Curtis. And I do agree that in the first round, he was doing a lot of movement and a lot of nothing. I even said, dude, you're doing too much. You're jumping around. You're not swinging. You're going to tire yourself out. And he did eventually end up doing that. But Chris Curtis did not capitalize. And think about the scenario where Max Griffin wins that fight. And it's like, Chris Curtis, all you had to do was capitalize on the moments that you had. And it's that he doesn't see that is why he will never get to the top, unfortunately, is because he's going to keep getting to the ceiling of his skill, which is just barely past Max Griffin, apparently, in the welterweight division. A split decision on that is like a unanimous decision loss to the next level up, probably. But I don't know.
Yeah, no, there's a great song by Atmosphere called Scapegoat. And it's basically just a long list of all the things that are the cause of the problems because it's never me.
Yeah.
And that's just reminded me of that with Chris Curtis here. But anyway, I guess I'd give it 2-1 to Curtis for the heavier, more solid hits, but I don't know or care based on what I saw from this fight. So yeah, fine. He gets the win. Like you said, we don't have to hear him complain. So that's a good thing at the end of the day. And, I put it to bed, to be perfectly honest, because it does not inspire me on either side. I like Max better. I do like, as I said last week, I follow him on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So I see him posting on there. I appreciate the business side of everything from him. As a fighter, I think that he's kind of sunsetting at this point. The gas tank is as much of an issue as I had thought it was going to be. So, this fight just kind of ended up being somewhat irrelevant, and I'm just, we're on the other side of it. It's just how I feel about it now.
The unfortunate part is Chris Curtis is at an age where being in the organization, if you are that age, you need to be extremely competitive at the top, like Jose Aldo, Josh Emmett, I guess, if you want to throw some other people in there. Chris Curtis is at a point where, I mean, you're just going to have to look for exciting fights to fill him on cards. And he's going to lose them. Like there's not even really ones that you could even say like, oh, Chris Curtis would be a banger against somebody in the, such and such in the welterweight division. It's because like what I saw right here, he'd probably get smoked by him. I don't know.
Yeah, could very well be. I mean,
Gilbert Burns would give this dude.
Yeah, a little bit of a run for the money, maybe, perhaps. Maybe. Again, we'll just have to see what they end up wanting to do with a guy like him at this point. a win over Max Griffin. Does it really raise the stock all that much? Probably not in the grand scheme of things. Card filler, and then we just have to watch more weird shit happen in his fights and have all of the things that come with Chris Curtis. So just keep an eye out for more of the same, I would guess. But also one other thing to keep an eye out for, and I did not notice this with Curtis before, so maybe it's just me not being perceptive, but Chris Curtis has a full back tattoo of Baphomet, which is pretty wild.
Who is Baphomet?
Baphomet is the goat demon, like the representation of Satan to some.
There's two other things that I'll actually bring up. I'm pretty sure Chris Curtis also has the Goldberg tattoo, like the little Godsmack symbol. I'm pretty sure he has that also. But
okay.
One other thing to note is some people have been speculating, and we've been watching him fight, so I don't know if this is true. Chris Curtis apparently doesn't have a left nipple.
Oh. I did
Somebody said I wasn't inspecting, but like,
yeah, I guess I'll have to take a look. Yeah, I want to double check if it's actually that, because I couldn't find a picture of his back tattoo. But like between him with that and Khalil Roundtree with Anton LaVey on his leg, maybe there's a little bit more occult stuff going on than we give it credit for, because both those guys are out in Vegas, are they not?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So,
yeah. Probably.
I don't know. Maybe Chris Curtis is a member of Choice Center. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, let's move on. So main card here starts out with Junior Tafa versus Tuco Tokos, exactly as I was hoping it was not going to go. And just like Eduardo Mora, now you have to watch more Tuco Tokos fights, people. So congratulations, everybody. Everyone wins when this fight takes place and how it all went down. What'd you think, Chase?
I hate that I was so right about this.
Yeah, me too.
I was so right about Junior, and I was almost wrong, because the fight started, and we, we're standing for a little bit, and then we get the takedown, and Junior gets taken down, but he actually gets up, and I said, oh my God, I was wrong. I was absolutely wrong. Junior Tafa is going to be able to do this. Once it gets back to the feet, he's just going to destroy him. Not necessarily what happened in the first round, because I'm pretty sure we go back to the ground, then he doesn't get up again, and he goes straight to his butt and lays on his back, and that's exactly what the Tafas love to do. They love to go prone and just let whatever happened to them happen. They get full mount easily on these dudes, and it just sucks that Tafa is just not the killer that he probably should be. Even what sucks is his, a lot of times when you see people lose, you can see a lot of emotion in their face. Tafa had that look like, I really fucked up here. Like this was the moment, because you can even see in the second round, Tafa drops him and almost gets the finish. But Tukos was able to weather the storm and eventually get him back down and get the finish. And it was super impressive, but it was a standard Tafa performance, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the bigger story of this whole thing, is just exactly as we had been saying last week, and will always just be the truth, is that these Tafa brothers do not improve. They just don't work on the things. Yeah, they have no desire or make no effort, or if they are trying, it's just unfortunately not working. Change gyms at this point, because nothing gets better with the major glaring hole in the game, the biggest hole that you could possibly have. If all you can do is be on the feet and you can't stay there, then that's a major problem that just does not get fixed. So the first takedown was initiated 30 seconds into this fight, and I was like, okay, yeah, it's pretty much exactly as you had said. It's just like, oh, this is gonna be a problem. And then there was an opposition to that, and I was like, all right, maybe this is the evolution that we were looking for. And I was just like, after it did not happen that way, it got so defeating. I was very defeated on the watch along with this one. There were moments towards the end of the first where Tokos almost had full mount securely, didn't end up getting it, but just think about all of the steps that it took to get from the feet to there, and how many opportunities Tafa had to change the course of events, but couldn't make that happen. That's what got really, really defeating to me.
There was a moment in the first round, which was absolutely probably the craziest thing. And I saw Lauren Murphy win a round on this card. The craziest thing that happened on this card, and there was a lot of craziness. Junior Tafa attempted a ninja choke. I don't know.
That was pretty wild. If he had actually gotten that, that would have been one of the craziest things that we would have seen all night.
Yeah, no, that was absolutely nuts, and I saw him go for it, and I said, "No fucking way did he develop a submission game," and unfortunately, he gave it up and got taken down, and then lost the fight by submission. But it was definitely, it looked like he thought something. It looked like
Well,
the symbols were going together. You
yeah,
know,
so okay, so after at the end of the first round, somehow Tafa ends up on top for a
he
minute.
Kimura sweeps him, I think, which is actually even crazier to
Yeah,
say.
pretty wild. So, but at the so he's on top for that little bit there. He looks frustrated at that point too. So I'm like, okay, round two, he's gonna have those answers that we've been looking for on the feet, right? He's not gonna let this go back to the ground. And for a second there, very briefly, he did have those answers. Like round two starts, Tafa bombs him and does a pretty nice job keeping the back until Tokos rolls through. Tafa tells him to stand up at that point. Remember, I was like, bro, yes, this is what I'm always talking about on the podcast. I'm like, he's not going to play the game. He disengages, he looks dead at him and says, stand the fuck up. Then instead of blitzing thereafter, Tafa takes a more measured approach. And I have no idea why he didn't just start throwing more shots, considering that you knew that Tokos was rocked at least a little bit. You like go for broke. I mean, maybe not for broke, but at least go actively charging for him, because on the other side, Tokos charges him with a jump kick, and somehow that equals up to him grabbing the body, and then it's back to the ground forever. That's
Yep.
like the whole sequence of everything just ended up being so fucking frustrating, because it was one of those ones where it's like it was going how you thought it was going to go, then you get that glimmer of hope, and then it just gets pulled away from you again.
Yes, I actually would like to note that once again, I would give a round of applause to the matchmakers because they clearly know what they're doing. And maybe this is just another one of those cases where see something you want to you think it's even more of an opportunity because you saw somebody else do it just a couple fights before or whatever. The matchmakers put a card together that had three light heavyweights slash heavyweights that were submission artists, and they submitted their opponents. And I think that is just crucial to note that heavyweights normally are the sluggers, yeah, and we did get some of those, but the fact that we had three big guys get submission victories, I mean, somebody must know fucking something up there. They put these guys on a card together. They know we're getting submissions. Like, I don't know.
And that's why you should very much be looking forward to Tai Tuivasa and Walter Walker coming up soon, but I digress. But no, the only other note that I had on the Toko side was that I did appreciate that once he had the head and arm, all locked up, that he did step over into the proper angle for it. So once I saw that, I was like, okay, this is definitely over. So at least he has the acumen to know that that's the right thing to do. But I still do not, same as I said with Eduardo Mora, like this should not be some kind of indicator that this is the guy to put your money on going forward. I mean, he even said the note is wild that he said this. During his post-fight interview, he said, I'd been fighting like really tough prospects, but this was a much more realistic matchup for me to win. And I was like, damn, bro, real on the nose with that shit. But that should tell you something. He
Yeah.
knows that there are certain types of fights that he can win and other ones that he will not. Look at what his opponent is next time and make a very calculated decision as to whether or not that person is going to let themselves get submitted.
Yeah, I 100% agree. This performance, man, it's just unfortunate because Junior Tafa, a lot of people love these big guys that love to slug, and he is cool, but it's unfortunate that he's not at the skill level that we need for this division and or this organization at this point. You're come from glory, and you got Tuco Tukos in front of you, and you throw zero leg kicks, brother. Mistake. Hello. I don't
Right.
know. That's just
Yeah.
my opinion. Club him one time at least. If you are somebody that came from a kickboxing organization, go out there and kick him his fucking hard. If you're gonna throw zero kicks for the rest of the fight, kick him one time as hard as you can. I don't care if your leg breaks. Like, go for it. So
Yeah,
whatever.
well, could have ended up in a Wonder Boy situation there, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah, no, yeah, I mean, again, this is just a all around unfortunate because you end up in a situation where Tafa succumbs to exactly the game plan that should have happened to him with the skill set that Tokos has. But now you have more Tuco Tokos in your life. Like I said, so you're just going to have to deal with more of this, but be aware of what it's going to be in the next fight.
I would like to say that a couple shows ago, maybe a month or so ago, I talked about how the arm triangle is fading out of the MMA submission arsenal because people are getting too wise to it. I still stand on that because Junior Tafa does not represent the category that I'm talking about. This is a dude who will literally get subbed by anything. Dontel Mays was able to lay on his back for so long and not get finished by the submission. I've seen people in PFL not be able to finish the submission as well. And I actually, going into the next fight, I thought that was also an arm triangle, but I guess I am mistaken by my memory. So we can go into the next fight if you're done with this one.
Yeah, no, I certainly am. Let's do just that. Vitor Petrino versus Austin Lane. I have two notes for this fight. One is that Petrino gets a trip, Lane stays down, head and arm choke, the end. And the other one is if Lane has a weak chin and can't get up, what's left for him in this sport?
I don't know if there's anything that I mean, okay, I will say great on Petrino. If your game plan is join the heavyweights and become a grappler, decent idea because he kind of fills out the frame of like Jailton Almeida somehow, which I've even been saying for the longest time. Jailton should jump down to 205, somebody like that. Petrino could be the reverse of that. Good on him for becoming a submission specialist. Hopefully that's what we see out of him because as he saw with Walter earlier, you can have success by being a grappler with good submission and just fundamentals when it comes to it. Because people like Austin Lane, they get to their back and they don't know what the fuck's going on. He looking for the goddamn football. Like I don't know what's going on down there. The one thing that I want to know, and I want to be I'll be the one to say it. I'll be the one to start this. I think Vitor Petrino 100% has to be juiced. There ain't no way he stepped up to this fucking weight class at 2 pounds lighter than Walter Walker. 3 months after he just got finished at light heavyweight. No, but dude, it's not like he's just fat either. Like he is definitively stockier, and it is absolutely ridiculous the way that he showed up to heavyweight. And then was able to muscle around Austin Lane. I mean, maybe I'm also not far off here. Maybe it was going to be a normal performance if he was just regular. But
show me some definitive, something definitive aside from physique.
Give it 2 months.
Yeah, I was saying, like I said, mark it. We'll come back to this conversation should that end up coming out. But I mean, the thing to me though about that is that it wasn't even like he muscled him around all that much. That's I think the biggest problem with Austin Lane and why I'm like, I just don't think that there's much for him in this sport is because it's like he got him down off of a trip and then it was pretty much just ground. It was lay on top of him and move into the positions that you want to get into. Now we know what lay and pray looks like. This was not that. This was, I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, get the head and arm, fight is over. So that's the problem to me. It would be a lot different if he was sitting there like stalling the entire time and it really was just him, holding him down, not letting Lane get movement or whatever. No, it was like, I'm going to set up the next thing. Lane just was not aware of all of the setups as they were happening and wasn't or did not have a game plan to get out of them. Yeah. So, I mean, all of those things considered together, I'm just like, Lane, you can't have a weak chin and no ground game. It's just you're going to get lapped. And like for Vitor Petrino to come in from a lower weight and just smoke you. I mean, this is coming from the dude who was going with the thought process of, all of what we had said last episode about, Lane's going to be a lot bigger. He's going to, be able to swing at distance, if he throws out some kicks, maybe. Well, he certainly threw out a kick and that ended up being his downfall. But I just did not realize how little he had going for him on the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was pretty unfortunate. And like I said, Vitor came in basically an entire different person. I don't know if anybody out there is Dragon Ball Z fans. He basically went final form Frieza, and he just like, I don't know, dude, he's crazy looking now. And meathead or not, great performance. I'll give him that.
Yeah, I mean, looked good. And, as you had mentioned, goes back to the conversation we had about Walter, where, I appreciate if he's going to stay at heavyweight, if this is where he feels more comfortable, having a skill set like this is going to be good for the division. So I'm not, I have no problems with how this all played out, my betting aside. I do think that he is going to be shorter for heavyweight. He is like that kind of short, stockier build. He's a big short, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? He's not like tiny. We're not talking Torres Finney kind of situation here, but like compared to Austin Lane, compared to some of the other taller guys, like they put him up against a Taliesin Teixeira, he might have more problems.
I mean, even Shamil Walter Walker. That's 6'6", 6'4", whatever you want to say. And then Austin Lane, I mean, he was very tall too, but it obviously didn't matter once you get it to the mat. Everybody's the same height on the ground.
Exactly, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I see there possibly being like a good amount of opposition to Petrino going forward in heavyweight, especially too, since we know that he can get knocked out. So, you're going to be dealing with a lot of power there, and you might not always have such ease of getting these guys to the ground as he did in this fight.
That was my next point is,
Yeah,
Austin Lane threw out that kick and got caught or whatever, and that's how it got to the mat. What are you going to do when it's a generic heavyweight that has literally never thrown a kick in his life, and he's
right.
just going to box you up top? How are you going to get him down? Are you going to shoot and get the double or single? Or are you going to go for a waist lock? There's going to be so many different questions that have to be answered still if his game plan is going to be grapple in heavyweight. So
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that there's probably a couple of guys that are going to be like good tests to show, like, but as better than Lane when it comes to like the well-roundedness is relative, of course, but guys who are a little bit more equipped to handle those types of situations. Like I would like to maybe see him against like Buday.
mhm.
That might be a fight that you could at least show you more of what it will look like for him going forward against a more prototypical heavyweight.
That's the problem that I'm seeing going forward is like the only people you can name have to be the people that we already don't like watching and we really want out of the division kind of deal. Because like, two heavyweights that are submission artists, you could be like, oh, match him and Volter up. But it's like you don't want to match up the two heavyweight prospects because then we're going to have one less prospect to get out of the top rank, to
Sure.
get somebody out of the top ranks. Vitor is also another option for somebody like Tai Tuivasa because in that case, I think Ty probably is not going to kick him and get caught, and it's going to be a little harder to get him down probably because you're going to have to shoot from far away, and he'll throw uppercuts. So the boxing is going to be a little more on point. Vitor have to get a little more creative, but
Well, and also if the whole idea is to be shaking up this division and bringing new blood in, then I would think that maybe like a guy like Janice might make sense just to see if maybe he's improved some since his performance against Tybura. Like see if like that.
he just fought, brother.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But yeah, that aside, but I'm saying like when it comes to ground game stuff, I mean, 'cause
Oh
you
yeah,
didn't really
sure,
have
sure,
to
sure.
worry too much about that. I mean, I think Holloway,
Goozy.
yeah, Guzzi tried to take him down like once or twice, maybe, but that there we talked about the circumstances that
Yeah.
one. I'm just saying, like, my point with saying that is that it's like if it's going to be new prospects, if they're trying to reinvigorate this division a little bit, then yeah, eventually you're going to have like the newer guys having to fight each other too. But like that should be a learning experience for a guy like Janice, a fight against Tybura, like a big and a huge step up in competition. Then, so maybe it makes more sense at some point.
See, compare it to a division like flyweights or or lightweights where you'll get prospects and they'll be right out of the contender series and they'll go up against somebody who only has like 2 or 3 fights in the organization. And it's kind of like, okay, see if you can face somebody who's a little more measured while this guy's still just trying to build his resume. See if you can knock him off track. And I
Sure.
don't think we're going to have that with the heavyweights because there's just not enough to go around. We don't want to see them fight yet because I'd rather them be ranked. So Ty and Kunaev can be out of there. I know Kunaev's kind of a prospect kind of deal, but he doesn't rightfully deserve to be ranked. So we should probably get somebody else in there. And the only way to do that is to do a prospect versus that person. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, a performance like that certainly, proves at least that he can hang at heavyweight. Now, whether or not you put
committed to changing his game plan to win is
that's a better,
another aspect.
yeah, that's a better way to put it, I would say, because it's like, does Lane really prove much? A win over Lane, how much does that really prove? But
It doesn't necessarily prove much other than the fact that he knew what the game plan was. He knew how he could win this. It's not stand and strike with him for 2 minutes and then take him down. It was instant. As soon as the kick comes, take him down, and then we're in free game to just cruise control into a finish.
right, right. So yeah, I guess we're just gonna have to see what ends up happening for Petrino going forward, as always. But as far as Austin Lane goes, I think his days are probably numbered.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah,
they might try to use him as a stepping stone for a couple other fighters, maybe just because he is a big guy and there's not that many of them to go around. But I mean, yeah, like I said, if you cannot get up and you have a weak chin, there's just not that much at heavyweight.
yeah. No, I 100% agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the next one here. One that broke my heart in 2 pieces. Nate Landwehr versus Morgan Charrier. I know that this was probably pretty happy for you, and I understand the performance being impressive in the end.
No, this was not fun for me.
No?
I initially, okay, yes, I remember on the show that I was confident that Morgan, at least on the last Monday show, I was confident Morgan should be able to get this one done. At least from what I've seen, I think that the talent speaks for itself. Now, when we broke down the numbers, 11 losses, most of them being in the regionals kind of deal, it did not speak to me as somebody to put money into. So Nate the Train obviously is somebody that I would put money on any day of the week. And he came out there and showed me why he's somebody that I would put money on. And in the first round, he showed me so much of why he's a great talent for this division because he's so good at a lot of different things. The striking, of course, he's good at pressure. He's good at walking people down. He'll go into a firefight, which is also why Nate is the fucking man.
Oh yeah.
But when the first wrestling sequence was initiated, this is exactly when I thought. I even typed it in the Discord. I said, now that I see how the wrestling is going, Nate is going to win this fight. And it went well. He had the whizzer and he didn't get taken down. He got it right back up and then went right back to trading. Second round again, big old firefight. I actually don't know how you would score this one, to be honest. I mean, obviously it was a finish, but up until the finish, I don't know what the scorecards would have been. And then the third round, oh, this was absolutely amazing. These dudes go out here and throw everything. Nate gets clipped and it throws him off balance. He's losing his footing and he's wild and he's all over the place and he's ducking and dodging. He's actually very coherent, all considered. And then he gets clipped and then he falls to the mat and then he's getting shots and then the ref steps in. And this is where I would also argue an early stoppage has occurred because Nate was one, he was defending himself. If you go back to Rebavix and Zellhuber at the Spear, what was different from what Zellhuber was doing than what Nate the Train was doing? Nate the Train arguably was moving a lot more because he was trying to get the fuck out of there. He just couldn't navigate around him. And then he gets put on the mat. He's still trying to fight back to his feet. He's not necessarily taking a shitload of unanswered shots to where he's face down on the mat. He's getting up, the ref steps in, and he's still trying to attempt a takedown. I think it was a little early. Unfortunate it did not go his way because Morgan was completely dead after that exchange. And Nate probably would have pulled away the victory. But all things considered, Morgan is damn near as good as I expected him to be. He's very decent. I'm not going to say damn good. Let me take a step back. He's as decent as I expected. He's borderline good if he doesn't gas out. I think that is what's key because I think the wrestling that he showed, the willingness to shoot when the striking wasn't going his way, is going to be very key against a lot of other opponents. Not many of them are going to be able to whizzer just like Nate the Train did right there. And Morgan probably gets a takedown, gets some control time, and then along with some very close striking and powerful shots from Morgan, he should be able to win a lot of the fights that come towards him.
Yeah, I'm good with the assessment. I thought that Nate was a little slow to start in that first round because Charrier's striking was pretty clean from the beginning, and you know how I feel about starting off strongly. I think that it's such an asset in these fights, especially in this one that I thought was a really like close, like stylistic matchup. You know, they're
Yeah.
like attribute for attribute on paper. I thought that like whoever was first was going to have a good advantage, and Charrier was doing that. So that was a good credit to him because yeah, you know, his striking, especially when he's fresh, as you're saying, and you know, fresh Charrier is a really clean striker. Also with those low kicks, you know, Morgan was hitting that leg pretty hard. That was paying
Oh,
dividends.
yeah.
That welt was pretty nasty. So yeah, round one was pretty good for Charrier. Nate brings the action to him a little more consistently in the second round. So I had it 1-1 going into that third. But you want to talk about loading up shots in that third round. I mean, Charrier really said, I'm throwing this shit out the fucking window. He started his shots in New York and landed them in Los Angeles, bro. He was cross country swinging those things, dude. I mean, like, talk about from behind. I mean, he was reaching, you know, all the way as far back as his arm would go to start those swings. And, you know, it was cool to see, but it's definitely one of those things that's like, that can't work against everybody, man. I mean, there's going to be guys who are going to have better head movement, better wherewithal. That was my big note is unfortunately for Nate is that he didn't have that wherewithal to either level change or, you know, get out of the way. I mean, you know, there's a couple of different things he could do. Obviously his third round, he's gassed. They're both kind of tired, but Charrier had the gas tank to do all of that. So it sucks that Nate didn't realize it early enough. And I think it just started with that very first shot that landed from that crazy distance.
I think there's just some things about fighting that are so fun in the UFC because it isn't, I mean, this can happen in any organization. It is an entertainment at the end of the day. And when you see a low kick go from Morgan and Nate the Train shrugs it off and he's trying to get the ref out the way and he's hyping the
Hell
crowd.
yeah.
And then he comes out and he throws the biggest bomb that you've ever seen. And then you get Shireen that looks at him and just gives him a hats off. It was really, really funny. It's like,
Yeah.
in the moments that you're supposed to be the most serious, you just got to give them a little hats off to the chap, you know?
Yeah, no, it was pretty baller. I will give him credit for
Well,
that for sure.
no, and since we're talking about baller and we're talking about his emotes, Morgan definitely has the emote wheel on lock because his finishing one where he does the pistols and then puts them on the back. Oh yeah, it's hard. I like that one.
He's also pretty good on the mic too. I didn't realize his English was
Yes.
so good. You know, I mean, I'm sure that I heard him before and didn't pick up on it or put two and
Makes
two
you
together.
wonder why the cage didn't fucking use him in English, huh?
Yeah,
Like,
no shit, right? I mean, yeah, his English is not bad. So, yeah, I mean, as far as the stoppage goes, I mean, I can kind of see maybe a little bit of a case for it. I wasn't like super angry at this stoppage, like after the craziness of the shots. I think optically is really more of what stopped it than anything else. Like, you saw that dude was going for blood,
we are in the organization where people get certain they earn their stripes. Jared Cannonier, somebody that earned the ability to have the ref not end it, right when he thinks it. He's got to second guess himself. Nate the Train should have been given the benefit of the doubt because I think we would have seen an all-out fucking war in that third round. If Nate would have got he would have shot and got the leg and got him down, and then they get back up. Nate, he's a little wobbly, but then he's gonna go for broke, and that would have been epic. And we got to see the going for broke defensive side of Nate here, but he didn't get his moment to where he was gonna get that last laugh, and that's just
Yeah.
unfortunate.
Where's Kerry Hatley when you need him? Yeah, I said that this might actually be a potential knockout of the year. Honestly, I mean, just it's close. I mean, I don't know.
Roofie, brother, come
Well,
on.
no, I mean, on the list. I'm not saying it's going to win.
I
I'm
mean,
just
on
saying,
our list that we would
yeah,
talk
yeah. I
about.
might have
Yes,
to throw this on there just to have it in the
I do like
conversation.
it. I do like Morgan. I don't know what it is about him. I think 11 losses again. I think the story's not telling everything here. I think everything that I've said about him, in my mind, has sold me on why he should be mid to top-ish competition. He's not a champion yet, but the willingness to shoot when it's not going your way, the willingness to just go for broke and say, I'm tired, but I'm going to go out here and get a kill, things like that, admirable. Now, if it doesn't happen and you lose by split decision or something like that, then we're going to start talking. But if you keep coming out here and get a third round finish, or you win unanimously, or it's fight of the night, whatever you want, whatever the case may be, make it something that I remember. And I think he's always done that. So
Yeah, and really, I mean, with the record that he has, I know that it's like the losses do kind of speak sort of loudly, but I would think that there's potential for him to have a Charles Oliveira style rise at some point. A dude who's taken a good amount of losses and still can overcome all of that. But the thing is that he needs to tighten up all of the fundamentals to the point that he's not just relying on those go for broke power moments. You know what I mean? Because like
yeah,
I said when early on, yeah, his striking is when he's fresh, he's clean. He needs to just like work on his cardio a little bit to keep that consistent throughout the fight, so that he's not like, because he even said himself, he's like, oh yeah, those first 2 rounds he was really bringing it to me, so I really had to throw it all out there in the third. It's like, well, bro, yeah, like if you were understanding of that, then tailor your fight that way a little bit more, pace yourself in a way so that you're not having to dig so deep and throw it all out on the line, because not everybody's going to go down the same way that Nate did.
Yeah, I actually would like to agree with Deadly Pubes there. I think Morgan is a little underrated. I think he's somebody that nobody would talk about in the featherweight division, but for somebody that just knocked out Nate the Train, I mean, a little more respect can be put on his name going forward. I mean, Nate has been finished by people in his career that are not really that good. Herbert Burns is one that speaks to mind, but Morgan is clearly better than that. So I think this is good stock to put in. Not necessarily championship that I'm seeing yet, but he could put up a decent performance against possibly the dude that we see in the next fight. But
True. Well, let's get to the next fight then. How about it?
I'm ready.
Yeah, Calvin Kattar versus Steve Garcia. This was a really, really fun one. I enjoyed this fight quite a bit. Unfortunately, I do think that I was correct in my assessment that Calvin Kattar is just on that dreaded backslide that there is no coming back from. And I hate to say that, because I do think that there are a lot of admirable qualities to Kattar in some of the fights that we've seen him before, but he did not look great in this fight. I mean, he looked very apprehensive to engage early. The striking numbers through 2 rounds were abysmal for Kattar. I think he logged 16 strikes total through 2 rounds. I mean, you can see they gave him 26 total significant strikes, 26 strikes total landed versus the 85 for Steve Garcia. I mean, and that's, I think that might even be a little bit generous. Garcia did everything right in this fight. And I think that this was a not favorable matchup as far as like, Calvin not being of the caliber that should be able to handle him, but it's a favorable time to get Calvin Kattar for a guy like Steve Garcia.
I think this performance, I mean, listen, this is exactly what I knew it was going to be. It was going to be a dog walking. The first thing I want to note is that Calvin Kattar wanted to be upset with Zalal that he didn't want to bring the fight to him. And then I watched Calvin Kattar evade Steve Garcia for 3 rounds here, which was very unfortunate. I thought he was going to actually be ready to step into the fire a little more. And unfortunately, in the 3rd round, he did end up getting caught. But I think what's most telling about this is the fact that this was a 30-27. This was the most clear 30-26, maybe even 25. Like this was, dude, Calvin Kattar did nothing in this fight. He just walked around and let Steve Garcia put on the most flashy moves that he could pull out. And I thought Steve Garcia looked amazing. For a guy they call Stevie, brother, oh my goodness, this guy is a killer. And it is maybe telling that a lot of the shots didn't land on paper here, but if you watch the fight, you would know Kattar was on the back foot, getting out of the way of all of these shots. Steve was still putting a pace and pressure and creativeness in the striking that is really something to behold at featherweight right now. And I think it was unfortunate that he didn't get the finish. Like I said, he was a little close, dropped him and didn't get it. He made that one mistake and tried to grapple and then got flipped. And he even knew it. You could see in his face, he was like, fuck, like I fucked up. But Steve Garcia, very, very impressive, will be something that is dangerous in this division because, if somebody like Calvin Kattar, people are going to notice that. They're going to be like, that dude did not want to get hit by him. That he did not want to get, this is the dude that has the greatest chin that we've seen right now. And he did not want to take a shot. And even when he did, he got rocked in the 3rd. And that's what Steve Garcia expelling every one of his moves in the arsenal and being probably tired, which he was towards the end of the fight. Also, I wanted to note real quick, chin strap beard, not the greatest look for Steve Garcia, but it is what it's 2025 is the only thing I'm trying to say. That's like a 2000s look. But either way, Steve Garcia making things work that shouldn't is just his thing. He's going to come out here and be great, I think.
Steve Garcia, it's funny that you mentioned that about the beard, because Steve Garcia, I saw somebody in one of the groups that I'm in say that Garcia is one of the most impressive people to defy the eye test that they'd ever seen.
Mhm.
And I was like, I can kind of see that, because he does sort of just have this real like kind of cherubic round face. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't really look like that threatening of a guy, but fuck that, because he
Yeah.
certainly is. And I like that aspect of it. Like this is the kind of thing that you see him stacked up and you're like, oh yeah, this guy ain't got it like that, but he really fucking does. So
Yeah.
chin strap or otherwise, I really don't think that there's much that he can do about that, because it's just kind of the way that his face looks. But yeah, maybe a different style could make him, a little bit tougher, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just thought this was a really great performance from
Oh
Steve.
yeah, I know. Obviously, that's a little bit of an aside, but yeah, no. So I mean, I think that as far as on Kattar's side, and giving him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, because I really don't know what was off with him with this, because if you, like you said, if you're complaining about Zalal in one fight and then now you get the exact fight in the opposite direction and this is the performance, I really don't know what leg you have to stand on. But I thought that Calvin letting Steve get momentum early was the thing that proved to be the worst later into the fight, because once Steve got the timing down, his counter game is so fucking clean. I mean, like this dude, like every time that Calvin would even try to set up any kind of shots, especially once the speed started to wear off, like he had an answer for all of those. And then, like you said, he's mixing in all these other attacks. People are saying that he was had like an awkward style. I'm like, I don't see that. I see a pretty clean, polished style out of him. Like it was
Yeah.
very weird to hear people saying that, but but it was just a lot of different things. And that I think maybe is where they were getting that from. And I like that,
Sometimes when we get these knockout artists and we watch them in their performances, we're like, or when we finally see the person that they can't knock out, it's like, oh well, they only really had that one overhand, or they could only just throw hooks and like they would just get caught by it. I think Steve Garcia did a great job of defying that. This is somebody who you would expect with a bunch of knockouts. He comes in, he doesn't get the knockout on Calvin Kattar. It's like, then what? Nobody expect, and that's why I think the odds were pretty close. It's like, what happens when he doesn't knock him out? Nobody expected Steve Garcia to basically be Christian Leroy Duncan. Like, I mean, he actually looked amazing in this performance. So
Yeah, yeah, it really was. I mean, as you'd said, Garcia drops him in the third round, does not get the knockout, of course, but 30-27 worked for me. If you're thinking that a couple of those rounds were, 10-8s, then, power to you.
dude, 5 significant strikes on 10% accuracy at round. What is it? Round 2? That's what Pube said. Yeah, like, come on, no way do you get a 9. Like,
Yeah, that is pretty bad. But selfishly, I would have liked Steve to be a little bit more reckless, especially towards the end of the fight when it was quite clear that this was the game plan that Calvin was sticking with. It's like if he's not going to do anything else different, he's not showing you anything that you haven't already seen. You already dropped him. Like you probably could have gotten a little bit more aggressive, maybe tried to find that knockout a little bit harder, perhaps, but get the win.
yeah.
No need to put yourself in unnecessary danger when you're that far ahead. So really nothing negative to say. It's just a little minor nitpick.
That's actually key to note, and we saw it earlier with Fatima Klein. They don't rest in the lead. Steve Garcia didn't take the third round off and skate and just keep him on the outside. No, he still went for his finish. He wanted that. He wanted to keep
True.
the streak alive. So I do respect that from him. It may on paper, yeah, he got the unanimous decision, but when you watch it, you can see somebody who wanted to get the finish, and that's really key to note going forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And talk about going forward. I mean, if people are not recognizing Steve Garcia at this point, then they're missing out, and they're going to be in for a rude awakening if they think that this is a guy that you can underestimate higher up in this division. Because I think that the ceiling, like you talk about his ceiling, I think that his ceiling is much higher than what he's currently at. Even Calvin Kattar, I do think that it was an opportune time for this fight for him. So maybe there are going to be some challenges above Kattar that might give him some trouble. But as of right now, I'm ready for it, and I think he's ready for it too. It's like he said, line him up, I'll knock him down, kind of thing. So, this is what the type of dude. This is the exact type of person that, like, people who are not following the sport as closely are not going to know about. They're not going to pick up on necessarily. Like even with the knockout record, you think that his like legend would already be established, but it's like he's just not a name yet.
Mhm.
I think that this guy's going to be a name pretty soon.
I think so too. And as I look at it, Calvin Kattar is a pretty high name that you just beat. So who you're going to get next is actually somebody that's in contention right now, in my opinion. And I know we're giving a lot of praise to Mank, and we're talking to Mank that we chose Steve Garcia in the Discord. But I would like to throw his boy to the wolves and say Lerone Murphy and Steve Garcia would be a very, very good fight.
I like it. I do like it. I think that he had no, he didn't mention Murphy by name, but no, I do have the note though that I thought this was hilarious. Garcia did mention Zalal by name. Zalal was in the building, said Brendan Fitzgerald. Didn't show Zalal on camera. Instead, choose to cut to former NFL linebacker Will Compton instead.
Nice.
Wow, a lot of respect for Zalal.
Yeah, and to be honest, the way that I felt in that moment when he said that, I said, "Fuck no! You don't get to no. You don't get an exciting opponent after you get to fucking no. So I'll stay off camera." Second thing I want to know, now that you want to bring up the camera thing, I genuinely believe they put a guy on camera because they had the camera shot and it said Kid Rock. Now, I know what Kid Rock looks like. I've seen him walk out with Donald Trump very recently. I don't know who they put on that camera and said, was Kid Rock. Genuinely, I don't think it was him. I don't know what
Okay.
was going
It
on.
was definitely Kid Rock. I
I
know the shot you're talking about.
No way, no fucking. He must be going through some shit. I listen, Kid Rock, reach
He's
out. We'll figure some stuff out, dude.
he's
I
an
don't
older
know.
guy at this point, you know? He's an elderly gentleman.
I don't know, bro. That didn't look like Kid Rock to me.
All
Just
right.
saying, guys.
You
The
got
the
anything else
lizards are
on
out.
okay, fair.
All right.
Do you got anything else on Calvin and Steve here?
One last time, Steve Garcia, amazing performance.
Same, yeah, and like I said, keep your eyes on Steve Garcia because I do think that he's the next wave of this division. I would
Well,
say.
he already is. Like I said, he's got to be facing somebody that the next one means title shot at this point.
True.
I
Yeah,
think.
he's definitely getting to that point. Yeah, yeah, I agree. I did want to mention too, since we were talking about some stuff that was outside of the fights themselves. The ESPYs are tomorrow. Now we're on, we're in Tuesday now. Whatever. They're on Wednesday. The ESPYs are on Wednesday, the 16th. They just decided to announce the MMA Fighter of the Year on the broadcast for some reason.
Yep.
So shout out to Merab. We were correct. We both thought that Merab should take Fighter of the Year, and he did. But I just thought it was very strange that you have an award show that's going to announce those things at the award show. Why did they just jump the gun?
There was a couple years ago, the Oscars or something, their Twitter page released like their predictions for it, and it's like, what does that even mean? Like, so I don't know. When you say that, that's just the only thing that I thought of, but it's a very weird situation. I don't know.
Yeah, I just thought it was strange. Yeah, well, and just to clarify for Toby who's hanging out, it goes July to July is the way that they do their calendar. So it's Fighter of the Year for that calendar term.
So to break it down for you, Marab would have won the belt at the Sphere, defended it against Umar, then submitted Sugar Sean. In that time period, 3 achievements, I think that outweighs the other 2 that the other people have. So that's why he
Yeah,
won, in my opinion.
exactly, absolutely. And we thought that maybe Kayla might get it for socio-political reasons, but this was the right choice. So.
And before we move on to the fight, since Mank is
Yes.
here, shout out to you real quick. I wanted to let you know that Steve Garcia and Lerone Murphy is the matchup that I want to see happen. You book your tickets right now to Abu Dhabi. All right, next.
Appreciate that. And yeah, shout out to the Mank. Coming into the co-main event here, Steven Wonderboy Thompson versus Gabriel Bonfim. This was I really felt bad because I went into this thing thinking that Wonderboy had no chance in this fight, and I really thought that he put on a fantastic performance, all things considered. Very close fight, again, all things considered, and showed some really good takedown defense later on in the fight that I was not expecting. That being said, I do think that it was the right call for Bonfim to get it. I thought on the rewatch, maybe I was wrong about that though. So like this was a tough one for me, and I felt bad in general that I was rooting against Wonder. I wasn't rooting against Wonderboy. I was anticipating him losing, and it went that way. So that's what I felt bad about because I thought that this performance did not equal up to the loss that he ended up taking because of it.
I unfortunately don't think I have much to say about this one because Bonfim proved to me that he's not the next guy up, basically. It made me question how good of a wrestler is Shavkat compared to this guy if Wonderboy is magically able to pull out takedown defense out of his ass. And I thought it was actually amazing. Like the fact that he did it, I'm a believer. Like Wonderboy, go get the belt, dude. You got this. But generally speaking, he's going to come in and put on a fun performance, win or lose. And he's always somebody, you don't see the style very often, especially with somebody who's so old. You don't see somebody so talented at that age with a style that's so unique that works so well against every opposition. And Wonderboy doesn't give you he doesn't have the appearance of some dude who's going to be gritty and fight through a lot of shit. And this dude is a fucking Chad. I tell you this right now. And the fact that he lost this fight is damn criminal. He won the second and third round, and it was not even close, in my opinion. He rocked him in the third round, and then Bonfim held him against the cage up until the bell. It was ridiculous that they scored that round to him. I want to actually make a point that it was Mike Bell who did it. So there you go. Whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, Mike Bell. often one of the ones who has some interesting takes on these fights. But yeah, no, after rewatching it, I definitely thought that it was 1-1 going into the third. And yeah, you're right. He did just he clinched up a whole bunch of he played the wall install game.
Mhm.
And also Wonder Boy hit him with the Nazim Sadikov face kick as well,
Yes.
which I was like, damn, I mean, that should be enough. So yeah, it was a close fight. Good to see Wonder Boy still able to give him hell in one way, shape, or form here. Early in the fight, I said that Wonder Boy's takedown defense was solid after the first round, but he was having to defend too much, I thought, and that was part of the issue. Was that he was not being able to initiate enough offense because he was defending a lot, and he didn't do enough to gain Bonfim's respect and dissuade him from shooting early enough. And that ended up playing a little bit of a factor, even though he did pick up the takedown defense. So the first round, it was an unfortunate drop in that regard. Bonfim knew what he was getting into with Wonder Boy because Wonder Boy has kind of a predictable game plan, I would
Mhm.
say. So, that ends up turning it into sort of an attrition war between Bonfim's wrestling and Wonder Boy's striking to an extent. And I think that that's being that he had his hands on him so often in the fight is probably what the judges were going off of, even if it was not necessarily the right way to shoot it. But yeah, I mean, it was very close. And I mean, I think that we would be criminally remiss if we did not mention the massive, disgusting shin splitter gash that happened to Wonder Boy in that late second round there that bursted his leg open, and that thing was a gaping wound. I said that this was very similar to the Jack Shore situation, and I was waiting for a doctor to come into the cage and start sticking his finger directly into the wound.
Yeah, I agree. That one was definitely something that stuck out to me. As soon as it happened, I'm like, "Oh god, no way they will stop this again." It was a nasty fucking cut, split the shin, a couple inches down. And what actually was the icing on the cake is the grappling afterwards, where Bonfim tried to kick him in the leg. And go ahead. I'll let you.
I know. I was just gonna say that when I saw that happening, I think I literally even said it on the watch along. I'm like, Chase would be proud. Chase would be proud. And but
That's
what I
what
had
you
said,
do.
yeah, what I said too is because you're exactly right. You attack vulnerabilities. That's what this sport is. Is it they're saying, oh, that's just mean. Fuck that. You're trying to win a fight. This is
Yeah.
what you need to do in there. So I had no problem with that whatsoever. I thought that it was the smarter thing to do. You don't pay that
Yeah.
type of respect. I mean, if you
Well,
see that it's cut, you go for it.
you know what's crazy is, like, had he been doing that in the 3rd round up until the bell, I'd be like, "Man, he was trying to fucking hurt, he was trying to break his leg in half." Like, he saw the split, he was trying to split it more, but he really didn't even care. He did that one little stomp, he kicked him in the leg twice, and then everybody was like, "Boo, you fucking dick," and then he was like, "Okay, shit, I can't kick Wonder Boy anymore," and then he ended up losing the 3rd round because he didn't wanna attack the disadvantage. Obviously, he coulda kicked him hella times in that fucking leg after that happened, but he just
Well,
decided not to.
and he also couldn't kick it when Wonder Boy was throwing that leg,
True.
I mean, that's a Wonder Boy, what an absolute G for being, I mean, granted, it was probably, I mean, I'm sure it hurt really bad, yes,
Yeah.
but as far as the actual, like, bloody aspect of it, that was probably more cosmetic because that's just on the, that right at the very flat part where the shin bone protrudes, so, the bone, the harshness of the hit was what split it. So it probably, like, wasn't all that bad as far as, like, the cut itself. But so, he felt comfortable throwing it, but just the fact that you were bleeding profusely out of your leg and still, every time you throw it, you're just slanging blood everywhere because it's
Yes.
like such a mess. But this dude is just doing it anyway. Wonder Boy is a fucking champ.
Yeah, he is, and it's unfortunate again that we get a robbery. At least in my opinion, we got a robbery, petty theft, if you want to call it. What I thought was the more interesting though is how. Listen, I even said it in the Discord. Bonfim was the happiest person I have ever seen in my life after this fight. He hugged Wonder Boy like he was his father. Like it was nuts. And then I don't know if you want to make a note about it, but I will. We got the infamous double on the cage arm raise after the fight, and I
We
thought
did, yeah.
I thought Wonder Boy, okay, I respect that. Give him the double arm raise, but who the fuck are you, Bomb Fiend? Get off the cage, brother. You nobody. Like, come on.
Yeah, I appreciate that he recognized the status of the guy he was fighting. I think it was more of the recognition of that. So, I can appreciate that aspect of it. But speaking of infamous, we brought up Andy Nav earlier in the stream. Shout out to him for getting the clip, because I had mentioned this on the watch along as well. You saw the clip of the cameraman doing the slow zoom in on Wonder Boy's dick while he was fighting Bonfim's hands on the cage.
Yes. I'm watching and I'm like, we're just zooming it. We're just looking at his dick.
We get it.
It was long enough to make passing comments about. Like, it was pretty wild.
I
Pretty
said
funny.
cameraman wanted a taste,
Yeah.
it's sometimes it happens, but this was a good, tough, close fight. I enjoyed this fight. I felt bad that Wonder Boy didn't get it, especially with his current record and everything. He's got the one more on the contract. He'll fight through that one more fight. He'll get a hero's send off.
And
It's
he's
gonna be
going to karate combat, baby.
Bro, that would be perfect for him if they want to do that. That would be excellent. They would be very lucky to have Wonder Boy in karate combat. That would be really, really solid.
Or he's a Chad and just goes to bare knuckle or something, like a fucking G. Like, who knows?
You can't kick in bare knuckle.
Don't give a shit. Wonder Boy can punch too, buddy. He got hand.
Right. Hey, fair enough. No, I think karate combat would be absolutely perfect. Honestly, at this stage of his professional career, he'll have a desk job. You know what I mean? They'll give him, he'll be right there with Alan Joban on the.
I'd want him on commentary more.
That's
than
what I'm saying.
I'd literally watch him on the desk by himself instead of the other 4 that they have.
Yeah. I mean, he's got any number of options. The organization loves him. He's in tight. He's with Chris Weidman, that whole little camp there. So, they're very solid with the organization. He will be just fine. It sucks that he lost here. Don't feel too bad for him in the big picture, I guess.
Yeah, true. Wonder Boy, dude, the way that he performs, if he wants to, and that's really all it comes down to. As a fan, you should want whatever he wants, and if he wants to continue fighting, you should have no doubt that he can go be successful in any combat sport promotion right now.
True.
I just think, again, it's all up to him and what he wants. He seems to be in a good mind. He doesn't really give a shit about losses. Like, when he loses, like, he's in high spirit. He gives, chalks it up to the opponent, and then he's just ready for the next one, goes back to training. And I think, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, get him around the PI, man. He needs to be hanging out with all of these up-and-coming prospects because he's just the staple. This is the guy right here.
Yeah, and again, he probably will do stuff like that too. So it's gonna happen.
He needs to be a tough coach. That's what happens. I need that. Him and Holland would have been cool as shit. Even though Holland obviously
wasn't he just on this season? Not as the primary, but he was one of the guest coaches.
No, we had Rose, Esparza, Pennington, and there was one more. I forget, but either way,
yeah, Dillashaw was on there. If not this season, then he was on the last season, because I know I did distinctly remember him on one of the seasons. Might have actually been the one with Connor. But,
I was actually going to bring up the only thing that I know about Wonder Boy and Connor, because I was going to say maybe it was the Connor season, but the only scene that I remember a random video of Wonder Boy walking through a gym and Connor was on a massage table and they just had like a quick interaction. And it was always weird to me, like, why is he have a whole masseuse in the gym? Why is Wonder Boy walking here? It was the weirdest video I've ever seen in my life. So that's the only thing that I can say about that.
Double Champ does what he wants, including sending dick pictures to random rappers.
I'm sure you can assume what the masseuse was doing afterwards as well.
Yeah, maybe that was the lady in Miami. Anyway, all right, let's move on to this main event. We're going long today. Derek Lewis versus Taliesin Teixeira, your main event of the evening. This was a quick and fucking wild. I mean, it was very fast, but in that short amount of time, you got a whole lot of stuff. So, I mean, why don't you go ahead and start us off, and I'll break down some of these things here as far as the refereeing and all that.
Yeah, so fight starts. We stand in front of each other. Taliesin throws some jabs. Derek evades. Then Taliesin throws another jab, which catches Derek in the eye. Derek backs up, and he's obviously, fixing his eye. Something's going on. So now we got a blinded opponent, and Taliesin pounces, walks straight in. Derek Lewis throws a high kick, randomly, does a switch kick, actually, by the way. It was pretty funny. And then slips when he lands, which was even funnier. Throws a Hail Mary, slips again. Then he throws a left hook, catches Taliesin on the chin and drops him. Derek Lewis pounces on him, takes him to the ground. The ref is timid at first. Derek is landing a bunch of shots. They're not necessarily flush or clean, but it does have a good image. Like, oh, Derek is on top, he's smashing. And then Taliesin Teixeira proceeds to grab the cage and climb like a ladder to try to evade the shots and get himself off the ground, which is then when Jason Herzog decides that it is over, the fight is done, too much has transpired. And I think it was an absolute perfect stoppage because, yeah, Derek Lewis dropped him. Yeah, he's on the ground and pound. This dude broke the rules multiple times. In my opinion, when it comes to defending yourself, we have people who they get TKOs because the opponent is not defending themselves intelligently. When it comes to this position, if you in your mind, it is to break the rules and climb out the cage or whatever the fuck he was trying to do, you are not intelligently defending yourself. You've already forgotten the rules. You've forgotten you are in a competition. It's over. And then I feel like that's the same situation. In my eyes, that's how I would read it. If I'm Jason Herzog, holy shit, this dude doesn't even know what the fuck he's doing. He doesn't even know where he's at. What is he climbing a ladder for? Shit like that. That's why you stopped it. Sorry, I want to give another side of it.
Yeah, sure.
People would say that was the wrong call and that you should have taken a point and put them back on the ground. And I'm telling you, if you think that, you're an idiot. Why would you take a point in a fight that is never going to go to decision and then put even if you stand him up, it's like, okay, you put Taliesin back on the feet where he has another opportunity and he's already off the ground, or you put Derek in full mount and then Derek smashes him. So like, I don't know. It's
right.
crazy.
No. Yeah, that's an asinine take to think that would be the right call there. But so, yeah, I mean, based on all of what you had just said as to like getting Teixeira to the ground and then him clawing his way back up, right? It puts Herzog in an odd situation. I posted this in the Discord and I put a little star here so I would remember to come back to it. Herzog has a couple of options at this point, and you got to remember this is all happening in extremely fast real time. He could stop the action and warn or deduct a point, then resume the action. He could let the fight continue without acknowledging the foul, let the fight continue until when and if the action subsides, then warn or deduct a point, or stop the fight altogether because of the knockdown or the illegal fence grabs, or both, which is what he ended up choosing to do. Now, the only other acceptable option of those would be to let the fight continue. If you thought that the fight should not have been stopped based on the damage, then the only other acceptable option would have been to let the fight continue. And if Taliesin Teixeira has the wherewithal to get back into the fight when there's a break in action, then you stop. But you cannot step in on a potentially fight ending sequence and do a point deduction when the person who is engaging in what could end the fight is in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
there's no other better way, I think. I would have to agree with the assessment. I mean, I think that maybe it would have been a little bit better to like maybe just, how basically what we were saying with Nate the Train, where it's like, even with the fouls, give him every last opportunity and then, but
See, but I even made the point. Somebody like Nate the Train, somebody like Jared Cannonier, they've earned the stripes where you give that extra hesitation.
but you
Taliesin
can't
Teixeira
put it
doesn't
on.
have those stripes
You
yet.
can't, but you can't pick and choose people though. It has to be, you can't just say,
I
oh,
think
this
you
guy is
can.
one way. You can.
Look at the sphere card. Look at Irina Aldana. What are you talking about? You can't pick specific
Well, that
people.
was bullshit too, though. I mean,
But I'm not saying
definitely should have been
it's
stopped.
not bullshit, but I'm saying people do earn that rank where the refs will look at it and say they're not in as much damage as somebody who is just starting, Tony Ferguson, things like that. People will go through immense wars. Charles Oliveira, they'll go through wars and the ref will give them the second nod because they know that that's what the fans are here for. They know that that's what they would want. Taliesin Teixeira, we don't know anything about him yet. Is he the type of dude that's going to be able to get up, or would he have just been laying there lifeless while Derek, the hardest hitting guy, just smashes his head? I don't know.
Well, I mean, I think that maybe a second or two longer just to definitively prove it. Because if he was back to his feet at that point, he was trying to push him off. I mean, Taliesin Teixeira was protesting, and I mean, he might have been a little out of it. That's what they were saying.
You bring up the second longer thing. It's like, okay, he drops him. Now it's like, okay, a second longer. Okay, he's on top of him. second longer. When is that last second that you're supposed to stop waiting? Oh, it's now that he climbed the cage. Well, I should have waited a second longer. I don't know. Like, I think in this moment,
Well, okay. I'll tell you the answer to me in this specific instance would have been if he had thrown any shots back. If he had been trying to punch his way out or did something intelligent to,
after he cheated.
Yes, yeah. Well, but that's what I'm saying though, is that if that had been the case, then you wait for the break in the action, then you stop, then you do either a warning or a deduction.
This is a double-edged sword,
Yeah.
honestly.
No, you're right. I mean, I'll
It,
definitely agree with you on that.
if Tyson gets up and we don't do anything about it, and then he wins, it's like, well, he fucking cheated to get out of the position where he was gonna lose, you know. And then you have the situation where you have to end it early, and then Derek Lewis wins. I don't know. It's either way. There was going to be fan bases mad, and I think that's all that is to note on that one. I would like to note that I was very precise when I said, if you think Derek Lewis will land 0 strikes, you are absolutely insane, because all he needs to do is land one, and that's exactly what he literally landed. One hook, dropped Taliesin on his butt, and that's all he needed to do. And you know what I also think is funny? They were doing the whole promo things. And you could see it coming. I feel like I felt it. Taliesin is going on there. He's like, I'm here to show the heavyweight division, like, they've never seen nothing like me before. You know, I'm something crazy. And it's like, I sat here and thought to myself, everybody thinks they're special. Everybody thinks that they are the next level guy, that they are going to be able to do something that nobody's ever seen. And I'm like, dude, we've already seen Volkov's. Like, you're not really like the craziest specimen at your size. Like, Volkov is very talented. So the fact that it's something that nobody's ever seen, and you walk out here and you get dropped in the first round, you know, I don't know. Maybe the confidence was not meeting, you know, the skill potential. I really don't know. It sucks that this is what happened, you know. It really did come down to a veteran move. Derek Lewis, whether he did get, you know, in my opinion, you know, it was a little grazing shot. It looked like it looked like the Vaseline got in his eye. It looked like it like
No,
rubbed at. But
they
he
showed
did say that
well,
he's playing awesome. So go ahead.
okay. Oh, he did. Okay, fair
He
enough.
did admit, but who knows if he was actually, you know, he
Yeah, I
might
mean,
have
if you
just.
saw the replay, I think it was just like the tip of the thumb on the fist, like caught it a little bit. It wasn't. It definitely was just a graze, though. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Either way, yeah, no, I mean, I'm not like super upset. I think that now, like after like going through, like talking it through and everything, it was like based on all of the factors, not the worst stoppage that it could have been. And like you said, it was going to be a problem either way. Herzog is generally a pretty good referee most of the time. You know, a lot of people were a little upset about how this all went down, but in the big picture, not something to really get too hung up on. More so the big picture of heavyweight, I think, is what is the bigger aspect of all of this. And you're exactly right. Like, this is yet another time of a hot prospect. I mean, I just feel like they're too anxious. The organization is too
they're
chomping at the
impulsive
bit.
with it. They're just
Yes, impulsive. Yeah.
he's got it. Like,
Yeah, well, they're throwing these new guys just fresh into the fire at the like way high jumps up in competition, where it's like you need to develop these guys a little bit more. Like, you're wishful thinking too hard on some of these prospects, and this is what happens. Now you end up with all of your potentially hot prospects getting demolished early on in their careers, and now they have to be rebuilt and come in and redo the whole process. Like, let them incubate a little bit more before putting them in these kinds of situations, because they run up against Derek Lewis, and that's not a situation you want to be in.
yeah, and once again, we have Derek Lewis with his post-fight antics, takes the shorts off, runs around the cage, does the dog piss celebration, which was absolutely hilarious. That one was really good. Gets on the mic. Actually, before that, the fight isn't even over, and because Derek Lewis gets to do whatever he wants, obviously Dana White is sitting there with the biggest grin on his face, handing him the phone, and at that moment, I'm like, of course, it has to be Donald Trump. Who else would be able to get the call? And so we're obviously getting the hand raised. Derek Lewis is just fucking, you know, on
I
the
was, yeah,
phone. It
bro.
was absolutely the most unprofessional thing you've ever seen in combat sports, but Derek Lewis does whatever he wants. So he's obviously talking to Trump, getting his hand raised, having a grand old time, tells us, you know, Donald Trump was on the phone, blah, blah, blah. Who else could it have been? He's going to be on the White House card. I'm sure that's what this means now. He said, I just saw your finish. You need to perform on the White House lawn. Tom Aspinall, I'll give it to you right now. I do matchmaking.
It must be pretty easy to be the president of the United States. You must not have to do too much. You got all this time to watch fights.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was not a it's cool that Trump is into the sport and stuff, but bro, can we not just have a normal ring announcement at least? You can't wait to call him backstage, perhaps, or whatever. I don't know.
I actually would like to make an exception because I would I would prefer if it happened more often. Like if we had a guy from, let's say our boy from say Anshul got a win or Pooja and the prime minister or something was calling her. That'd be really cool. There was a story with Mick Tebek. When he made his debut, they were like the president of Uzbekistan or whatever has called him to let him know he's got his grades. And I was like, first off, I was thinking this guy has a phone, crazy. And then second, I was thinking, yeah, that's pretty cool. Like they're backing their guy. Like they know how big of a moment this could be for their nation. And I was like, that could be,
It
if we
just doesn't
did,
have to
I don't
take
know.
place right then and there, is what I'm saying. Like, God,
Derek
like
Lewis does what he wants, dude. Fuck
yeah,
it.
fair, whatever. I get, and also Trump.
Moons the crowd,
Yeah,
throws
that
the
too.
cup again,
Yeah, yeah, no, most definitely. And the big winner of the evening, of course, is Derek
his
Lewis's
wife.
wife. Yeah, most definitely. Getting the ground and pound back home. I thought that was something that everybody needed to know. So thank you very much for
Hopefully
letting
she
us
doesn't
know
check her DMs. Connor might be lurking, but
that.
Derek Lewis,
God.
good night, man.
Yeah, that would be a big problem for Connor if he starts messing with the wrong man's wife. But yeah, no, look, great win for Derek Lewis. Crowd favorite, fan favorite. Everybody loves Derek Lewis, so happy to see that. Another guy getting shot too far, flying too close to the sun, unfortunately, and a nice way to cap off a pretty good card, I thought. So, I'm happy about all that. If Derek Lewis does end up fighting at the White House, got another year for it. So,
He actually makes the most sense out of all of the names that we've thrown out. And sometimes we forget Derek Lewis is a huge Trump supporter. Like
true.
they've
Yeah.
been friends for a really long time. Like Derek Lewis has had personal meetings with this dude. Like this is the obvious choice. He loves Derek Lewis. The heavyweights against Tom Aspinall probably would be awesome at the White House, and I think Donald Trump sees the potential here. So shout out to
Well,
him.
yeah, then Donald Trump can see Derek Lewis get submitted by Tom Aspinall on the White House lawn, but still got to get him to the ground, right? So I guess
True,
that's
true.
yeah. So anyway, good deal though. I mean, all things considered, even with the weirdness in the stop and all that aspect of it, I think that this turned out to be a pretty awesome display. So I was happy about that, and like I said, a good cap off to what turned out to be one of the better cards that we've had this portion of the year, I would say.
Hell yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I guess all things said now, then we kind of tipped the hand, but after talking it through, yeah, we're in agreement. This was a pretty good card.
This was pretty good. I was a little moody. Again, worked the whole day and I was losing on bets. So if you watch the watch along, it would make it seem like I did not enjoy what was happening. But all in all, yeah, these were some really good fights. I definitely showed my dad a couple of them. And there was definitely a win on the weekend. I'll give you guys that.
Yeah, right on. All right. Well, let's move right into the upcoming event. 318 is Holloway versus Poirier 3. That is taking place this weekend, and we've got a whole lot of fights to talk about on it, and we've been going pretty long. So you want to run through these?
We'll run through them real quick.
All right. Well, starting off, main event here: Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier, their third meeting. Of course, Dustin Poirier is up 2-0 on their current meetings. So, is this the time that Max is going to be able to get it back, or is this just a really nice little gift to Dustin Poirier to send him off into retirement?
No, I think Max probably batters him for 5 rounds. Batters is a little harsh, but like he should quote unquote, point his way to the victory. I don't think he's going to finish Dustin. Max does have the style that's elusive and on the outside and volume. So I think he'll definitely win this one, 3 rounds to 2 at least.
Yeah, I mean, every time. Well, I mean, it's 3 rounds to 2. I mean, if we have counted Dustin Poirier out in some fights before, and he has gone above and beyond and shown a level of determination and grit that perhaps is uncommon, which is why he's such a heralded fan favorite in this sport, one of the best to never hold undisputed gold, I would say. It is certainly time for him to retire, and I'm glad that he is taking that step into retirement. At this stage of the career, I do think that Max is probably the more well-rounded fighter, but there's always the opportunity for him to catch him the same way that Ilya caught him.
I think it's absolutely crucial that we mention what Pubes just said. The judging will definitely be in favor of Dustin. Whether you want to believe it or not, oh, the commissions and the UFC, they have nothing to do with each other, blah, 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 blah. No, nope. Dustin probably will scrape by a decision if it's close.
I mean, it really depends on how close it is, right? I mean,
Mhm.
if that is the case, yes, they are
I
fighting
mean,
in New Orleans.
it's actually, I don't think you need to picture it as close as like when I say close, I mean the styles could evenly, match each other. Max volume, Dustin damage. Like, I mean, that's easy right there. That they can cancel each other out, and all the judges need to do is decide volume, damage, which one is actually going to be the deciding factor. And I think that's all it's going to be. Dustin will land some big hooks that'll catch Max, probably the same shot ish, that overhand check that Ilya landed, but it's not going to put Max out, I don't think. So he should be able to take some big shots and just outstrike him. But it's just dependent on who's judging and what they're going to pick on the criteria. So
Yeah, yeah, and if it even goes to decision, I
true.
mean, that's gonna be the other part of it, right? Yeah, I think that like again, where they are currently in their careers, it's still a pretty competitive matchup. So I do like that. I do like that aspect of it, and the BMF belt is on the line. So I mean, that
But
could hopefully play some part.
But you don't like when fighters are on their way out, you know? Like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I know Dustin's not necessarily, but he's already retired for as much as you can say. He's just here to fight in his hometown kind of deal. Jeremy Stevens type of thing, just
Yeah, yeah,
wherever.
right. I mean, that certainly does play a factor, but I do think that Dustin's the type of guy that would like to go out with the victory. It's like because he was talking a lot recently. I mean, knowing that this is his last fight, he's been doing the press tour, and he's been talking about how life is going to be so different after his time fighting, and how is he going to adjust and all that kind of stuff. So I do think that for pride and for the ego's sake, that he would like to go out, giving the fans a good show, getting a win in his hometown, going out with a win on the record. I think he's going to try to put his all into this fight. So for that reason, and with plus money on the line too, at least on this book, not a lot. It's pretty much a pick 'em, but they have Dustin as a plus 110. I think you can do a lot worse than
Yeah.
picking Dustin Poirier in this fight.
No, 100%. This will be a
Yeah.
good one.
Which hurts my feelings because I'm a huge fan of Max Holloway. So, but I just going off of all of the factors being as they are, and like you said, with the location and everything, judging and all of those aspects of it, I think that Dustin going out on top would probably be okay. And also,
Yeah.
we got to see if Max's chin is still going to hold up at this point. Now, I mean,
It's been
we
time. He's only
yeah,
33.
I know that. How crazy is that he's only
Right.
33? It's so wild that he has been in this sport as long as he has. But yeah, but knockouts change people, and who knows if Ilya is one of those types of fighters that fundamentally changes people after they get knocked out by him. Now, it didn't happen to Volk, but not everybody's the same. So,
Yeah.
all right, well, we will see. I'm going to tentatively pick Dustin Poirier in this one.
I'm taking Max.
All right. Paulo Costa versus Roman Kopylov in the co-main event.
This is the new co-main event. We'll talk about what it got flopped for later down the
Oh,
card.
okay, gotcha. Yeah, this is I don't think I've been
It'll look
paying.
way out of place once we get to that fight. Don't you worry.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. Yeah, no, I don't think I'd been paying too close attention to the order of this card going into it, so this is the only one that I had known it as. I will never bet on Paulo Costa ever at this point. I've A, don't like him as a person, and B, I've seen enough of his terrible performances to know that he is not that guy, even if he was close to being it at one point. So Roman Kopylov has shown me a lot better. He showed me a great fight against Chris Curtis earlier this year. We talked about. So, I've seen enough from Kopylov to know that he is a well-rounded, well-skilled individual in this sport. Costa has been a disappointment time and time again. Kopylov seems like an easy choice to me.
Kopylov has shown that he's willing to learn new things to be effective at what he does.
Sure.
Costa has proven time and time again he does not give a shit. So
yeah. For a guy who's been around as long as Costa has been, to have the performances at the higher levels that he has had should really tell you all that you need to know about where his head is at. The fact that he has coasted on Twitter fame for a good portion of his career, pulling out of fights. Who even knows if he's going to make it to this fight? I mean, with all his weight misses and everything, there's just too many negatives going for Paulo Costa. I think that Kopylov is a pretty solid choice for this one.
100%.
All right. Kevin
Yes.
Holland, Daniel Rodriguez, yet another fight that I could not care less about.
I think it's absolutely nuts that Kevin Holland is fighting somebody like Daniel Rodriguez. Kevin Holland arguably should be fighting someone like Ian fucking Gary right now. But listen, I digress.
I
Daniel
mean,
Rodriguez is
off of a checkered board record that he's got.
no, but it'll sell very, very well, I think is what the main case would be. Ian
Oh
Gary
yeah,
and Kevin Holland on the mic.
yeah.
And
Off
you
of,
can somewhat make a case because Ian Gary wants to be active, but he can't find the fights right now. You come out here and you smoke Kevin Holland, you're on notice.
true. Yeah. No.
This is the
For
dude that Joaquin Buckley. I mean, you
yeah.
can't
No.
beat Buckley, beat the dude that beat him. Sorry.
Sellability. No, I was just going to say sellability. You're definitely correct on that one.
But yeah, no, Kevin Holland completely outclasses Daniel Rodriguez. I would not be surprised if Daniel Rodriguez catches Kevin Holland with a bomb and drops him, but Kevin Holland should go ahead and win this fight any way that it goes. Kevin Holland is one of those people he's very good at striking and very good at grappling. And then when it gets into the wrestling part, it gets a little muddy, but any position that he ends up in, he has the opportunity to make it interesting. Kevin Holland is never somebody I'll count out. I don't think I ever have, to be honest. So I'm actually very happy with the pick on this.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Holland is again. This is an easier one than some of the earlier matches where I've said Kevin Holland is betting poison. Just it's again the same criticism always that you never know what version of him is going to show up, how seriously he's taking any fight at any given time. This one should be a pretty slam dunk for him, I would say. There's really nothing that Rodriguez brings to the table that he doesn't have an answer for, I would think. It's just a matter of if he actually wants to go out and get it. So hopefully that version of Kevin Holland shows up.
Kevin Holland, he's 1 year younger than Max Holloway. And I think that is pretty nuts. Kevin Holland definitely still has some time. Whether he doesn't have time to make the decision if he's going to be competitive at the top of the division, he would have already had to make that decision right now because if he wants to be something relevant towards the top, this fight has to be a win, and then you got to call out Ian Gary. I'm telling you, this is the move for you.
He doesn't really care too much about like ranking and belts and
We've
all that kind of
always
stuff.
said that, and he's always said that. But at a certain time, you got to be doing this long enough, and you've decided that 170 is going to be where you settle down. I want to actually cut. I want to be a part of it. I think at the age that you're at right now, there's got to be something like this is the last opportunity that I could have. I'm coming off a couple wins, finishes. This could be my moment to get my name out there and make the most. I know I make money and I know how to make money in the UFC, but I can make even more once I win this one and call out somebody good.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I think that makes sense, even though, again, he's coming off of a checkerboard, though. So, how much you factor in the sellability, I think plays a part in whether or not he gets that kind of a fight. I think the organization would certainly like that. And the fan favorite status is why he's this high on the card to begin with. So, yeah, I don't see any problem with that. If that's what he wants to do, he's just got to get the win first. So,
100%.
yeah, go out and get it. And I think he will. I mean, I think it's pretty solid pick there. All right, Dan Ige versus Patricio Pitbull. How the fuck is Patricio Pitbull this high on a pay-per-view card again after that performance against Yair Rodriguez?
Tell you why right here. His opponent is Dan Ige, and Dan Ige deserves to be on the main card of a pay-per-view. This dude is absolutely somebody that is a fucking dog, has every skill that is necessary to be an elite level mixed martial artist, and has the performances to back up everything that I've said. He will show you why he is a top contender. And he does it time and time again. Yeah, you want to talk about the last fight. He was losing and then got the little early stoppage. That's fine. But it should tell you that at any cost, Dan Ige is always willing to throw it on the line, and he might be able to get something. Patricio Pitbull did not look good against, it was Yair, right? That's who this dude fought.
Yeah.
Can't fucking imagine that he beats Dan Ige. They are similar size. Yair did look massive against Patricio, and he was able to use his kicks and keep him at range very easily and, step out of shots. Will Dan Ige, offer something similar? Probably not, because he is just a brawler. He's just going to step in and we're going to fight. He'll mix in the kicks and he'll mix in a lot of different things. Maybe this grapples, but Dan Ige is, listen, I'm actually looking at a lot of people's ages right here. I'm realizing I have plenty of time with Dan Ige. 33 years old, he's beating Pitbull.
Yeah, well, but see, no, you say is he going to do a lot of things similar? I think the one thing he's going to do similar is actually fucking fight, and that was what Patricio was not doing. Patricio Pitbull looked like a goddamn mannequin in there, similar to his Bellator cohort, Patchy Mix in
Mhm.
that fight. So I mean, it's if you actually bring the fight to him, then sure, yeah. I mean, if he fights anything like he fought in that last fight, maybe it was because he's new to the organization, bright lights, blah blah blah. Whatever you want to say about that aspect of it, maybe there's something that we did not see from Pitbull in that first fight in the UFC, but he just looked terrible against Yair Rodriguez, who neither of us have ever been super high on. And Dan Ige is a warrior. He's a road dog type of
Yeah.
guy. So I don't see anything different happening aside from Ige going in there, muscling him around. I mean, there might be some potential for Pitbull with the grappling, maybe, but I think Ige can just thwart all of that. They will be like the size might be in favor of Pitbull in that a little bit, but I think that if Ige starts touching him up early, just be first is always going to be the note anyway. But for Dan Ige, especially important here, you start overwhelming Pitbull, he doesn't come back from being overwhelmed.
Yeah, minus 180 on Dan Ige is concerning because what does Vegas know that he shouldn't be higher? Dan Ige is again, he's one of these dudes that he is a split decision kind of guy. I will admit that. He does have a lot of close fights, but he does normally have those moments that could edge him to victory. Is Pitbull going to be able to pull those out? Is he going to be able to scramble to the back with 2 seconds left? I don't know. Dan Ige though, potentially, potentially.
Yeah, and well, and that's what I think is Vegas's mindset here is that they're probably thinking, well, the first fight might have been fluky. He didn't have his footing. He didn't get his bearings early enough. He started to pick up a little bit later in the fight, kind of thing. So now that he maybe is a little bit more comfortable in his body in this organization, then perhaps there's more potential that had not been unlocked yet. That's the only thing that's sticking out to me, possibly. But Dan Ige is the dude who you call on 4 hours notice.
Yeah.
Dan Ige doesn't have there's no feel out portion for Dan Ige. He's ready to go anytime that you pick up the phone. So he's going to have, full camp presumably for this, whatever. He's going to be fine. Like he's coming in to kill.
Yep. I agree. 100%.
Yeah. All right. This is the only other fight that I actually really care about on this main card. Michael Johnson versus Daniel Zellhuber. I'm a big fan of Michael Johnson. He's an old school guy. He is a tough customer for sure. He's definitely a veteran fighter at this point who I have had the privilege of seeing fight live and quite enjoyed that. I'd say that he is among my favorites in that same vein of a Clay Guida. He's one of those dudes that just does his job. He goes out there, fights his hardest, and that's about all you need to know about him. But he is going up against the Mexican killer, Daniel Zellhuber.
Yeah, Daniel Zellhuber should get this one done. I had to double check because I wanted to make sure he hadn't fought after Ribovix. No, last fight being Ribovix at the Sphere, I thought he won that fight. I thought he won the first 2 rounds, and then the judges had to give the third round to Ribovix, and they gave him the fight because it was such a one-sided, round. But in my opinion, he beat Ribovix 2-1, and he should go out here and smoke Michael Johnson, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't see. I mean, Johnson is tough and he will certainly engage. So, I mean, you're not going to see Michael Johnson on the back foot trying to do, distance fighting. It would not, if he does, it would be very out of character. That being said, I think that plays into Zellhuber's hand a little bit more because he's a dude who, when you get into those firefight situations, he wants that. He will enjoy a fight that is gritty and dirty, and that's kind of what Michael Johnson brings to the table. So I think that you're playing right into his hand if you come in with the style that is expected. So maybe if Johnson's got some kind of trick up his sleeve, then perhaps there's a potential for him to pull off an upset. But it would be very, very surprising. We were talking about this one on the watch along too. And I was, somebody had asked me about, my feelings on Michael the Menace. And I was like, yeah, he's one of my favorites, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, who's he fighting? Oh, Zellhuber. Nah. Yeah. Really hard for me to back a dude, even though I have a lot of respect for him.
100%. Yeah, I'll take Zellhuber on this one.
Yeah, easy. And that minus 600 doesn't hurt that assessment either, of course. But all right, moving on down the line here. This is another fight that I actually think is pretty good as a featured prelim here. Kyler Phillips versus Vinicius Oliveira. Phillips is a guy who I had a lot of faith in earlier on. I thought that there were a couple of performances of his where I was like, he really is living up to that Matrix nickname. He gets locked in. He finds the flow state really well. Came up short recently, and I was like, maybe I might have
Rob Font too.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I think that people were counting Rob Font out unnecessarily, and now we know that that's the case. At the time, it made a little bit less sense, but now I think it's starting to make a little bit more sense as time goes on. So, perhaps that might have just been a little bit more than Phillips could have chewed at that point. But do you think that Vinicius Oliveira is the exact type of person who can do what he needs to do.
Brother, I can tell you one thing. If Rob Font is able to get one over on you, Vinicius Oliveira is going to eat your fucking lunch. Like, this dude is a junkyard lope dog for a reason. I mean, junkyard type dog. This dude he's out here to kill people. And a lot of people, I save these words for not a lot of people. Vinicius is on a short list of people that I would say is a killer. And this dude is amazing. Love him.
You see, I feel like we had that perception, but then in his last fight, he didn't really fully live up to that. Am I wrong? What was his last fight?
Ricky Simone, probably. No, Saeed Nurmagomedov. He beat him unanimous decision.
Yeah, on a UD against Saeed, and I seem to recall like later on in that fight that there was like him maybe being a little bit like coasty, like he might have been coasting on the first 2 rounds or something along those lines. Like something like that is vaguely sticking out in my mind as something to remember. But I don't know. I'm gonna ride with Kyler Phillips on this one. I like, because I that's for the reasons that we're saying. Like, I feel like we have said this about Vinicius Oliveira, and of course, yes, the knee knockout is always going to be awesome, and he has that on his highlights forever, and that's really, we're going to see that on Saturday. You'll get a nice promo package of his highlights with that on it. But I want to believe that there's more left for Kyler Phillips than a fight against a loss to Rob Font is like signaling.
Same amount of losses, and Vinicius has 10 more wins than him. So that's just the way that I'll put it right there.
Yeah, fair. I mean, the MMA math is not on Phillips's side for sure in that regard, but I just think that technically Phillips brings a lot of good technicality to the table, and Vinicius brings a lot of like explosiveness to the table.
He's a wild card for sure.
There you go. Yeah, a good way to put it. He's a wild card. I think I know what I'm getting a little bit more out of Phillips than I do with Oliveira. So for that reason, I'm gonna lean back on that aspect of it, where it's like maybe the version of Oliveira that we've seen before isn't the same one that we end up seeing with Phillips, and the technicality ends up winning out. That's where the thought process is, at least. If it doesn't go my way on this one, I would not be entirely shocked or anything.
So you're taking Kyler?
I will.
Yeah, okay. All right. I'm taking Vinny.
All right, there you go. Remember, everybody, if you are watching now, both of us doing our streams to our channels, you go to the individual channel, either youtube.com/@YamaShow or youtube.com/@CPSmalls for Chase, and you like the video that you think is the person who's more correct here. So
yeah,
there's your one divergence so far, I think. All right, moving on down. Marvin Vettori versus Brendan Allen, a fight that, wow, this should really be a loser goes home fight.
Do you not see that this was the co-main event? Yes, yeah. It stands out like a sore thumb. Like, what do you do? 2 fights into the prelims, and you have arguably a 5-round fight that should happen. And I think this will be a really fun fight. These are 2 dudes that have already wanted to fight each other. They've tried to fight each other in a casino, and they've thrown a little hands. And I think this is the perfect matchup where we're going to get Marvin Vettori Iron Chin, and we're going to get Brendan Allen, who actually decides that he wants to strike with somebody. And Brendan Allen is a great grappler. And I think oftentimes he believes that his grappling is a lot better than what his striking is. And there have been times where he has decided to grapple when the striking is working for him. Against Chris Curtis in the second fight, he was winning on the feet and kept diving for the takedowns till he was gassed out and on his knees, having to get told to get up from the ref. Brendan Allen this time, I think he's going to have no problem standing with Marvin Vettori and butchering this guy. I don't like Brendan Allen too much. I'm coming around to him, but I think Brendan Allen is going to put serious hands on Marvin Vettori in the stand-up. Seriously, I do.
Yeah, okay, hot take on that one. Yeah, to think that Brendan Allen is not going to immediately shoot for the legs is just it does not seem that
he didn't do that in the casino. He didn't do that in the casino. That's what I'm saying. He threw a straight punch right at Vettori. He stood his ground. Stand your base. He's a fucking Chad. And against somebody like this, when it's bad blood, it's not game plan shit. It's like, no, I'm gonna go smash Vettori for that shit in the casino.
I mean, okay, if that I see the thought process for sure, but I mean, you're going up against a dude who has a cinder block for a head. Now, I mean,
but he loves to get punched.
It's true. He is a punching bag. That is a problem. Yeah, I mean, I think
younger, taller, longer.
All of those things are playing into Brendan Allen's hand, and I think that the reason that I would go with Brendan Allen is probably more so because that he has more options, and that's, I think, the issue. It's not necessarily that he's a better striker in totality, because I think we've seen Marvin Vettori have some pretty good striking success in the past. He just doesn't seem to be that same person anymore, which I think is unfortunate. But I think also it's that if it does get too hot on the feet, Brendan Allen has the option to go to his wrestling, to fall back on it. Vittori doesn't have any other options. He's just going to punch or be punched.
And what I think is key to note, and why I think this is Brendan Allen by this time, the grappling is in his backpack, but he should not be relying so much on it, in my opinion. Marvin Vettori never been subbed, never been knocked out. Go out there and bro, and he's not some fucking killer. Like, people have stood with this dude plenty of times. Like, Roman Delise, like, these are
Yeah.
not somebody that is like out of the world against Brendan Allen. I know he lost to Roman Delise, I think, but Brendan Allen should do what I think he's going to do, and I have a lot of faith in him too. And I like Marvin Vettori too, but he's not somebody that gets finished. I think you're just going to have to go put it on him. And yeah, there might be a little grappling. There might be a little control time to steal some rounds. But I 100% believe Brendan Allen's going to throw meaty hooks at this dude.
Yeah, and really, like, as I had said, I think that the Vittori that is going to go after chasing the win more so than just being the punching bag is not here anymore, and that I
Mhm.
think is the biggest problem. You saw it against Roman Dolidze. I mean, like, can he take a shot? We all know that he can take a shot. The fact that he was trounced by Jared Cannonier for 5 rounds. I mean, this dude is as tough as they come, for sure. We saw what Jared Cannonier did to RoboCop.
Mhm.
Marvin Vittori has a brick head. That is very true, but he's lost the drive, it seems, to actually find the victory. So it's like
Yeah.
you're tough for nothing at this point, and it's an unfortunate reality of where he seems to be. And he's only 31 years old, so we really should not be having this conversation. Like, this should
Right.
not be where he's at. But right now, I mean, I think that there's more tools in the arsenal for Brendan Allen, and Vittori did not show me that he, like, especially the Roman Dolidze fight really is a big turning point, because he had taken a lot of time off before that. He had been talking all of that going into it about how, this is the new and improved version. This is the dude who, I fixed the holes in the game. I needed the time off to readjust, blah, blah, blah. He had this whole big spiel about how different he was going to be. And then he barely threw shots.
Yeah. I agree. I think this one, potential fight of the night right here. This is my call for fight of the night, I think. After what I've seen so far, I think these dudes they're gonna go full. I'm not gonna say the word, but they're gonna be really stupid and slug with each other, is what I think.
Well, if there's ever a fight where where somebody could go full, it
Yeah.
certainly is a Marvin Vittori fight.
Exactly.
Uh,
And so this next one I'm really excited to get into.
okay, yes, Francisco Prado versus Nikolay Veretennikov. Veretennikov is yes. Tell him, Chase. What?
He's the worst fighter ever. Oh my gosh. So he's 35 years old as a prospect, has shown no qualities in the one loss that he took where he got finished by a guy on short notice. He's losing this fight.
He is, not only is he awful, but he is a disservice to mixed martial arts, because he's also the guy that went over and was pushing after the fact and talking all of this mad shit, and getting really pissy about the loss and everything.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, this guy's like, I think I said during, because Austin Vanderford is the fight we're talking about
Yes.
here, and yeah, I think I remember saying, like, get this guy the fuck out of here. Like, I
They
don't
even
want to
said that
see.
on the commentary.
Yeah, like the fact that he's even getting rebooked is kind of amazing at this point. Now, I mean, Francisco Prado, nah, you know what I mean? It's not necessarily, he's
He's
13 and
23 though. That's pretty young. Wow.
yeah. Yeah, he's 23 and 12 and 3. So I mean, it's not like he's got a bad record or anything. He's still, I guess, building up a little bit more. But like, Veretennikov offers no kind of threats. So yeah, you want to talk about the lock of the night. The fact that this is even this close is, I mean, this is almost a pick 'em. I like, you want to talk about somebody who should bet the house on. I would say that it is Francisco Prado in this fight.
Yeah. 100%.
All right. This is a fight that was taken off of the card that we just reviewed and put onto this one. And it hurts my heart to say this, but this is a Tebe Gautier versus Robert Valentin. And Tebe Gautier is a murderer, man. Valentin just keeps getting these fights that are so unfortunate.
It sucks that he's such a Chad. Like, he would take a fight like this, and maybe and maybe he weathers the storm in the first round, and Gutierrez gasses out, and Robert Valentin somehow gets a submission or something. But honestly, he gets touched too much. I don't see him being able to take a couple shots.
It's true. It's not only does he get touched in the takedowns, but he gets touched by the hands in general.
Yeah,
And it's all Gautier needs is one or two. I mean, like I said, he's beastly, man. And this dude is, they're calling him Mini Francis, and the comparison seems to be an apt one at this point. So Valentin, it's like he's a great guy. We all love him. He's one of those stories that you want to root for and all of that. But what is the method? It's what goes back to the age-old question when you are doing these predictions. What is the method of victory for Robert
yeah.
Valentin? And I don't see one.
It's hard for me. Submission somehow, some way is what I'm going for, but
It,
I'm not going to put my life on it.
take a note out of the Walter Walker playbook and go for the heel hook.
There you go. There
I
you go.
think
Robert Valentin is actually another dude. He's another dude that has pulled off a very unique submission in mixed martial arts. He was able to pull off a modified armbar, and that's not something that you see very often. He did it with his legs too, which was pretty crazy. But will he be able to pull off something like that again? I don't think so.
I mean, it's going to take is a couple of shots to get him wobbly or get him respecting the power. And I just think that the game plan goes out the window. The
Yeah.
only thing I could really see is maybe if he ties him up, if he ties Gautier up, tries to gas him out, if he can somehow secure the takedowns and really, really grinds it out to the point where Gautier is not able to generate the power in the later rounds, then maybe. But it just doesn't seem likely.
Problem with Robert Valentin is he has the build of the tall, slender, kind of guy. But when you're not the tall guy in the fight, I don't know. Gutierrez pretty fucking huge. And Robert Valentin, the most of the success that he had is because he's be able to use his height and his reach and his length. And then when he gets you on the ground, everybody's the same size, and he's an exceptional grappler. But this one right here, I don't know. He's going to get touched too much, I think.
Exceptional grappler who lost to Torres Finney, but I digress.
He actually should have won that, in my opinion. But I digress.
All right. Well, yeah. So anyway, both going for Gautier though.
I'm gonna take Robert Valentin by submission.
Hey, I like it. All right. All right. There you go. Maybe that'll be the one that comes through. I'd be okay with that. Big fan. So, it'd be perfectly fine by me if that happens, but Gautier is just such a killer.
Yeah. They
All
are
right.
until they're not, though. Everybody remember that. They are killers until they are not.
It's a very good point. Excellent point. All right, moving on down to the early prelims. Adam Fugit going up against the newcomer Islam Dulatov. Dulatov is the male model, I believe.
Oh, nice. Well, he is probably gonna win. I think this is one of the locks that we are going with in the chat. Islam Dulatov is our German Chad.
Yeah, he's pretty goddamn good. He's got a little bit of the Ilya backstory where, he's had this really nice life. He's got this influencer deal going on. He's out there driving nice cars. He's a runway model, blah, blah, blah. But then he gets into the cage and he actually takes heads off. So, you can't really deny. You can talk all the shit that you want about his life outside the cage. He goes in there and he knocks people out. Man, that's what you got to look at.
Just a little side path because I love wasting time. Funny enough, so the Alice Ardayan thing about her being like a TikToker and like a social media star, I didn't really think, what does that even mean? Maybe she just sells clothing online. I don't know. I actually got to witness her thirst trapping on Twitter, and it was hilarious. I was like, wow, it's actually true. Like, she's just on here posting her ass for people to just engage with. I was like, I respect to the grind. She's a killer in the cage, so I don't care what she does.
Yeah. I mean, she makes the most low effort, brain dead content that I've ever seen in my life. So I have a little bit of a disdain for that aspect of it, but I cannot knock the hustle if it is getting you money. So
hell yeah. Doing better than me, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, fair. So yeah, Islam Dulatov, I mean, huge favorite, probably well deserved. I think that this is an easy one.
Yeah.
All right, Jimmy Crute and Marcin Prachnio. Prachnio famously lost to Vitor Petrino.
Good to know. I think this is one that I could care less about than a lot of them. Jimmy Crute, I believe, won his last fight, but got robbed by the judging.
Split decision. No,
Yeah,
or a draw, right? He was in a draw.
it might have been a draw. I
Yeah,
actually think you're right.
think
So
he was
I
a
think
draw.
he should go ahead and win this one. I know I call Jake Matthews random Aussie Jake Matthews, but this is actually random Aussie Jimmy Crute because he needs to come out here and win this fucking fight. As a minus 260 after a fight that was a draw that I thought you probably should have won. I'm going to need some reason to believe in you again. Go ahead and win this fight. Make it convincing because you're a light heavyweight. When you look at Jimmy Crute, I don't know. Jimmy Crute looks like a flyweight name. Like, I don't know why, but when I see him out there, he's massive. He's got huge legs, the thighs, the arms, and he really does go out there to throw some slugs. So I really hope that he comes out here and does really good. I would love it.
Yeah, I think that he should. Prachnio is probably a guy that if Crute wants to get his hands on him and muscle him around like Vitor Petrino did, he probably would have some success with it. So if he decides to go that route, there's probably something there. Prachnio is also not a guy that like I immediately think of like when you think about like light heavyweight knockout artists, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I would think that Crute probably should have some good success here, but it's like Crute is also one of those guys that like he snatches defeat from the jaws of victory, it feels like sometimes.
yeah,
So, it almost feels like it could go either way only because of that aspect of it. So I would probably stay away from betting on this fight if we're talking about actually placing your bets down. But for the purposes of this show, I will also go with Jimmy Crute on this one.
100%.
All right, Ryan Spann versus Lucas Dredsky. Spann, I believe, is one of the people who took Crute to a split decision, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, not important for this part of the discussion. Dredsky is a person who was juiced and then came off of the gear and had very little success afterwards. So what do you think about this?
Well, he beat Walter Walker, so
All right, well, there you
unanimous
go.
decision, by the way.
Hey, not everybody can get heel hooked, I guess.
Yeah, but both of these guys did get knocked out by Waldo Cortez Acosta. And Ryan Spann is not somebody that I would initially assume is on the same level of Lucas Tretzky. Ryan Spann is somebody that I've seen pull out miraculous wins, like the submission against OSP, standing guillotine, crazy. I've also seen him beat the ever-living life out of Anthony Smith and the judges rob him. So in my opinion, he kind of is a little mystic. I mean, he might be able to come out here and finish Dretzky. It's not the hardest task ever, but Ryan Spann, I've seen him with some killer instincts. He's ready to finish the fight when it comes down to it. Anthony Smith, of course, is not the easiest person to finish, but he was curled up in a ball. The ref didn't fucking call it. What can you do? So Ryan Spann, go out here and get this one done. You have so much more experience, and you're not a fucking Lucas Tretzky.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's also where I draw my conclusion from as well. It's like Ryan Spann is a dude who has won in unorthodox ways, unique ways. He's got a wide-ranging skill set. Dretzky does not do anything that really impresses me. And then also, like I said, I really do think that he is a different person off the gear. So all of those things being said, I think that Ryan Spann brings more to the table than Dretzky does. And for that reason, I think he gets this win.
Hell yeah.
All right. Shout out to Sierra West Coast. Appreciate you as always. Honey Roast Queen. Bruno Ferreira versus Jackson McVeigh. Jackson McVeigh, of course, was supposed to fight a couple of events ago, and his opponent missed weight by a massive amount. So that fight was canceled. He is rebooked.
Cut. He was cut as well.
And his opponent was cut as well. So nice of the organization to rebook McVeigh going up against Ferreira, who is
it nice of him?
I was going to say it's a bit of a tall order here, though. I don't know why they put him up against such an absolute killer for the first one. But Ferreira, we had thought that he was going to do some pretty big things last fight, and he did not.
He got a submission, actually. His
that
first
was
submission of his career against not a boost. No, he lost to a boost. I can't think of who it was against. I could look at it. But either way, I think Bruno Ferreira, absolute lock to go out here and get a finish. This guy is actually good. Like, Hulk, for a reason, he's got he's got hands, and he will put them on you. And apparently he knows how to grapple now. And when you grow up in Brazil, apparently you know how to do jiu-jitsu. Who would have known? Because he is very good.
No, I was just trying to I wanted to go see his record real quick, just to,
Petrosian.
Yeah, that was the last one was
That was the
Petrosian?
last one. Yep.
Okay, then yeah. Never mind. I was mistaking him for someone else. Then, yeah, no. He did very good in that fight. Petrosian, of course, not great and
Mhm.
cut. So, yeah, this should be a layup for Fajita. Come on. I mean, I don't unless this Jackson McVeigh is some killer that we don't know about yet and is going to come out here and make some crazy statement, which could happen. I mean, it's
I
not
mean,
certainly
all
not.
finishes.
Yeah, I mean, so there is potential there.
Nicknamed the Moose.
I love it. Oh, that is a great nickname. All right, I'm riding with Jackson McVeigh. Fuck it. No, I'm
All
just
right,
kidding.
let's go.
Nah, I can't. Come on, I can't. I mean, like, I'd like to, and look, what we always say on this show: go out there and get it done, and then the conversation changes immediately.
Mhm.
So, but as of right now, based on what we've seen and what we have not seen out of McVeigh and Fajita respectively, yeah, I mean, I think that it's pretty well in the bag for Bruno.
Oh yeah.
All right, and starting it all off. This is a great fight to start the card off
I
here, and I
love
know
this
that.
one.
Yeah, I know she's your girl. Carly Judice versus Nicole Cagliari. Cagliari was pretty good on the Contender Series, and then she lost her last fight, I believe. Am I correct?
Lost her debut against Ernesta Kedetske.
Yeah, and I know Ernesta's your girl too. So going up against another one of your ladies, what are you thinking here?
I am honestly not sure what to think about this one. They both have lost to Ernesta Kedetske. So that is off rip. We both know that they did not beat her. Carly lost by split. Nicole lost by unanimous. Now, Nicole Cagliari does have grappling, which is going to be interesting in this fight because we haven't seen Carly have to face somebody that has grappling yet. Being 4-2 in your career, obviously there's not a big sample size of what you've seen. Ernesta Kedetske is somebody who's never going to shoot a takedown. The other people, she just smoked Eunice Dubin, who's not a grappler at all. She's just a striker. She smoked her on the feet, by the way. Love that head kick. Nicole Cagliari is going to be able to bring a different aspect to the game, and she actually is a dog. I didn't think she was going to make it out of her first debut. I thought Ernesta was going to put the pace on her and not be able to let up and get a TKO. The fact she was able to weather the storm through a lot of different moments, I mean, she does have a good upside. Carly Judy's being the favorite at 4-2 is very, very dangerous, but she does have the skills to be elite. Crispy Carly Judice is somebody that the skill set you can watch and you just know she's got it. But will it actually add up to a victory? I don't know. It actually has to come down to it. That's the hard part. Everything the stars have to align and she has to perform her best. The best lady has to win on the night. And if it is Nicole, I'm honestly not too surprised. She's very, very good. Very, very talented.
She's super tough and durable as well. I mean, like her upper body is ridiculously ripped, if I recall. I mean, like she definitely takes her training seriously as far as her physique goes. Yeah, I mean, potential for Cagliari to muscle her around is probably going to be pretty high. I would think if she gets close, I would think that Judice, with the kicks, is probably going to want to try to keep a little bit of distance. If Cagliari can close that distance, get her hands on her, muscle her around, there is potential for her to get the win that way. Will that happen? Hard to say. So I don't know what overall final verdict on that. Who are you taking?
This one's really tough.
Yeah, that's why I like this fight as the opener.
Yeah, this one is really, really tough to decide. I'm going to say I'm going to roll with Carly Judice again. Actually, I'll take Nicole Cagliari. I'll go with Nicole Cagliari. I like this dog pick here.
Yeah, I do too, honestly, for this one. I think that the toughness is going to show. I think that also losing the debut is probably going to be something that she's going to want to avenge. I'm,
her cardio held up well.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like you can
for
see
the first third round, for the first 3 rounds that she's ever seen, because she had never seen a third round until her debut. She held up perfect. So continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that you saw all of the building blocks of like a fighter that is capable of winning in the UFC, as far as I was concerned anyway. Like anything that I had seen from her between the Contender Series and that one and the fight with Ernesta, like I didn't see anything that it certainly was not an Eduardo Mora situation, where I'm just like, this ain't it. Like I was like, yeah, no, there's definitely something there. It just needs to all click. And so hopefully this is going to be the fight where it clicks. I think that she's a good dog pick.
This one will be a good opener. I really love the 2 gritty women that get to open the card. Shout out to Tisha Pennington and Luana Pinheiro for another banger that we got as an opener. This one, banger.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a great way to open this card. And after talking it through, I like this card a little bit more than I might have been given it credit for. I kind of thought that this might have been a bit of a sleepy card, but this has some potential.
They need to put Vittori and Allen back in the co-main. We do not need fucking Paulo Costa up. Jesus.
Yeah, I know. That's such
Push
a
Michael
waste.
Johnson to the featured prelim. That's fine.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a waste of a slot having Paulo Costa anywhere, personally, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But either which way, we will be around to watch these fights with you. I will be doing my watch along at youtube.com/@YamaShow. And Chase, I know that you can tell them where they can find you.
They will always find me watching the UFC cards on youtube.com/@CP Smalls. And of course, I'll be on Twitter hanging around at x.com/creative parton, PARTIN.
There you go. I am on Twitter and Instagram at YamaShow. Join tomorrow for the live watch along of The Ultimate Fighter that continues to trudge on along. Chase, you doing a later rewatch?
We will be doing it an hour after, and we will be ready to go.
So there you go. You watch me live. You watch Chase thereafter. I'll probably be hanging out in the chat with Chase for a little bit of that. So you got another slew of content coming your way tomorrow, and then thereafter, hopefully a little bit more as well. We've talked about some things that we might have going later in the week. So keep your eyes on the channels always. We appreciate you. Thank you very much for hanging with us tonight. Have a great rest of your night, great rest of your week if we don't see you. And as always, fight on.